control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere. Watching me. The little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. We the people have taken over. We the people are little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them project you as you are. Reveal your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching
Let your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Said the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Thank you for listening in at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, and on Revolution Radio. We welcome you to tonight's show as we broadcast out of Uncle Jimbo's cabin in the Great White North, live on this Friday night, early Saturday morning if you're on the East Coast. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we do this thing 3 hours a night, 7 days a week. Some call us crazy for doing it, but we absolutely love what we do because we want to be your official one-stop shop when it comes to the supernatural, paranormal, conspiratorial, ufological, and so much more. Hey, if you like our music, you can head to our website where you'll hear the guitar god himself, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses. He takes care of all of Spaced Out Radio's musical needs. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can find us on TuneIn. Download our shows now on iTunes. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. At this time, we say hello. How are you? What's going on this Friday night, early Saturday morning, to all of you in the Revolution Radio chat room, on the High Plains Talk Radio Network, in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, along with our fans on Facebook at Euphoria Chronicles, Chronicles of the Unknown, Forest Moon Paranormal, and our flagship chat room, the SOR Space Travelers. I have to tell you, I just about had a heart attack as I saw something move out of the corner of my eye, only to know that Mrs. Spaced Out Radio just about gave me a jammer right then and there. So I'm just going to pump my chest a little bit as I ask if you've signed up for the SOR Space Travelers Club yet. It's only $5 a month, and with that, your name gets entered into private monthly draws, access to private group interviews, access to a special section on our website, and much more. Hey, we're going to give you a hell of a lot more than just access to our archives. Well, at spacedoutradio.com, you can read up on our latest blogs. Mine is on Bigfoot. You can check out Eric Markham's SOR Space Wire for your latest in weird news. Tonight's show is brought to you by Rivulet Reiki and Readings, providing healings in person or at a distance. PurplePlates.com, helping heal your body, mind, and soul. The New Agora newspaper is the official paper of this show. And the iTunes app, Spirit Story Box, it's the official ghost hunting app of SOR. Remember, if you are a listener on Revolution Radio, the Double R Machine is the largest non-profit online radio station going. Do us a favor, take the time to visit freedomslips.com and donate today. Many in the paranormal, enthusiasts and adventurers alike that are out there who take part in ghost hunts and investigations do not believe there should be any type of spiritual help when it comes to dealing with the dead. Yet, in this great debate of the paranormal, the million-dollar question is, do psychics, mediums, or empaths really belong in investigations? My personal opinion, yes, they do. But there are many others in the field who feel there is no place for the spiritualists in a haunted house. Excuses like, hey, they contaminate an investigation with their thoughts and contact. It's not 100% reliable. Or, we really don't believe in that type of weird stuff, so we just don't play with ghosts with any of those people. It's a little ridiculous, in my opinion. Sheila Renee Parker is a paranormal researcher and the author of the fictional book, The Spirit Within. It's a paranormal romance that will encapsulate love and ghosts together. Oh, how romantic. The Spirit Within can be found on Amazon. So, what is the role of gifted people when it comes to the paranormal? Sheila Renee Parker is with us, and you're not going to give me a jammer, are you?
No, absolutely not.
Good, good, because Mrs. Spaced Out Radio behind me, I mean, that just scared the living daylights out of me. I tell you.
I'll behave, I promise.
You better, because I have control of the mute button.
Wow, that's power right there.
It is. In this situation, it is total power, and, you know, I could see her with a big smirk on her face right now. So, yeah. It's one of those things that, I don't know, she just scared the, love you, babe, scared the living heck out of me. So, anyhow, Ms. Parker, or Mrs.
Yes,
Parker,
Dave.
Thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. I've been looking forward to it all week. It's a lot of fun.
I have too, because I always like to close out the week strong before I head off into the wilderness to find my zen and my chi before Spaced Out Weekend comes in and takes over Uncle Jimbo's cabin. But in the meantime, we've been talking a lot of paranormal this week, besides my migraine night that I had to take the night off the air. And I got to tell you, and I've said this many times on this show, for the longest time, I actually stayed away from the paranormal because I just found that the paranormal field is quite fickle. It's quite obtuse at times, and I love using that word, obtuse. And it's one of those things where, you know, personally, I believe that it's the lack of education in the field that really causes a lot of problems when it comes to, you know, the so-called rules that people have. And we're going to get into that more tonight. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm an empath, like you were just mentioning, and I've had this gift all my life. If there, you know, we all have abilities and everything, but I've always known that I've had something my whole entire life as far as an ability goes. Just didn't really realize what it was until I grew up, and you know, I started opening my eyes to other things as well, because being an empath, I was always afraid when I was a child to sense other people's emotions, because it was easy for me to pick up their emotions, and I got them confused a lot of times with my own. So that was an eye-opener as far as I got older and everything. Being the empath that I am, I used to think that it was a curse. Now I consider it as a blessing, because now I use my gift to help others. And since I have come forward as far as being an empath, a lot of other people with the same ability, they've come forward, they've reached out to me, and it's pretty rewarding for me to be able to help those who have the same questions that I once had. So I'm very, very grateful for that.
You mentioned you had experiences as a child, and that always intrigues me. The reason why it does is because before I got into this field or really started to study it a couple of years ago, my daughter, she's now 17 going on 35, you know, she actually has been seeing spirits and ghosts since she was about 18 months old.
Wow.
And it was weird for us, as me and my ex-wife, her mom, would be trying to deal with, the situation at hand, because she would be like, Daddy, there was something floating in my room. You know, and so with you as a child, explain how you figured out that you had some ability.
Well, I mean, like I was saying, you know, when I was younger, some of my first encounters were with shadow people and everything like that. It was just really, really scary. And I didn't really know how to perceive it because, you know, shadow people, hence shadows. And, you know, there was something that I saw. I never got a sense of malevolence from them. I just knew that they were there. I knew that there was something of an otherworldly presence. And it terrified me at first because I did not understand what they were. Even though I didn't feel a sense of malevolence, I was just, like you were saying, the uneducated part and everything. I was just uneducated, therefore I was afraid. But I've had those experiences also in my life with the shadow people. Now that I'm older, I've acknowledged them as observers. To me, some people consider shadow people as demons. I honestly believe a lot of it is built on perception and on how we all perceive different things based on our backgrounds, our religion, and our spiritual beliefs and everything else like that, and then I've also had experiences with Ouija boards, and that was a big no-no. I strongly recommend no one to ever use those. And I've just been able to, throughout my life, been able to pick up on people's vibrations, their emotions as far as, positive vibes, negative vibes, and I've been able to hear things as well. I'm not, as far as clairvoyant, I can't necessarily see things I can't see the spirit, but I can feel them. And I can hear them very often. And so that's been a very, very, hard task to swallow a lot of times, growing up and everything. But it's pretty interesting. I don't know if I ever had any as far back as what your daughter was talking about, like when she was really, really young, like as far as 18 months old and everything. But one of my first experiences was I was a little girl, and I remember being very drawn to graveyards ever since, being barely school age, and being able to sense, their presence, and I could even go as far as to smell their fragrances. And it's really weird, but I've always been able to do that as well.
As a teen, was it hard for you to continue down this path of being an empath and being an experiencer? Because for a lot of teenagers, they try and tune it out because there's teenage drama, there's boys, there's school, there's athletics, there's all sorts of clubs, maybe dance or whatever it may be, and there's a lot of peer pressure as well. Did you try and tune it out during your teen years, or did you just continue on and just maybe keep it a secret? Because for a lot of teens, they don't want to admit to anything like that for fear of any type of retribution.
Exactly. And I did. I kept my mouth shut the whole entire time because, a lot of my friends, they knew that I liked, ghost stories and, and horror shows and stuff like that. I always made that known. But as far as my abilities and things like that go, I never opened my mouth about it, not even once, because I was so afraid of, the judgment, based on other people. And like you said, growing up, teenagers can be brutal and, without even actually meaning to. And so I didn't say anything to anybody. I was just scared. And people called me weird as it was. I didn't need to add fuel to the fire. I just left that part alone. And I kind of tuned it out, tried the best that I could until it just got older and I just couldn't do it anymore. I finally embraced it. And, I started opening up about it. I was really scared in the beginning, but it was the weirdest thing, though, because as soon as I started opening up, I got so much positive feedback from so many amazing people. I wish I had opened up years prior, but I was just too scared to then.
At what age did you decide to open up?
What made me, I don't know. It was just kind of weird. I had like an awakening moment. This was roughly around 10 years ago. And it was just weird because, okay, long story short, I used to work in a spa, and one of the spa coordinators that came to where I worked in tried to help us do promotion and stuff like that, and she pulled me to the side, and she started asking me questions, and I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, I see something in you. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, you have the ability to connect with people like I haven't seen before. And I said, what do you mean? And then she started opening up, and ever since then, I just started, talking more and more about it. And it's weird because I don't think she realized what her encounter with me did for me. And ever since then, I just needed that one little spark, that one little moment that opened my eyes and made me, go forward. She kind of pushed me in the right direction. So that was awesome. But it still took baby steps from that moment. But ever since then, people ask me questions. I will just full out tell you what I have and, what kind of experiences I have. I don't hold anything back anymore. I don't know if it's because I've gotten older. They say it comes with age, but, I'm happy where I am right now.
When you started to finally come out, I'm going to assume it happened in your 20s, maybe late teens, early 20s, and you started to accept everything that has happened to you, and you started to embrace it and started to accept it. You know, I almost relate to it as a coming out party, because
Absolutely.
I remember when I started seeing things and having things happen to me, I absolutely, I told my best friends because I knew they would believe me. They know the type of person that I am, that I'm not a storyteller or anything like that.
Right.
But the hard part was telling my dad.
Wow.
My dad was a real five senses kind of guy. And when I sat down with him one night, and him and I rarely talk deep. If it is, like, literally, my entire 43 years, most of the conversations have been about hockey season, who's going to win in the NFL, who's leading in Major League Baseball, politics, and Coke versus Pepsi. If it wasn't one of those 5 topics, we just, as a family, never talked about it. We were very hidden and condensed as a family unit about never talking about serious issues. I don't know why, but I always hated that about my family. But anyways, when I talked to my dad about it, and I came out and I said, Dad, I've seen some things that are absolutely unbelievable, and I need to talk to you about this. And he actually sat down, and the minute when he said, he kind of leaned back, and he's like, son, I'm 65 years old, and I thought that at this time I would know a lot more than what I do, but I believe you.
Wow, that's impressive.
And I just kind of, I almost, believe it or not, I almost started crying, because I didn't expect that from my dad. My dad is this, in my mind, this legend of a man, like this big, strong, even though he's only an inch and a half taller than me, and he still rubs it in the jerk. But he's my hero. And you don't want to disappoint your hero. And I was so scared to tell him, even though I'm at this time 41, he's 65, and I'm freaking out trying to tell him this. Did you have that moment as well when you started opening up to family and friends and explaining what you've gone through your entire life?
Well, that's the thing. My father passed away 6 years ago, and he's never known anything about my abilities or anything like that. But when he passed away, that kind of even made me more into researching things as well, because I wanted to know more about, the afterlife. But my mother, believe it, even though to this day, when I write my articles, because I have articles and I'm a writer and everything as well, and I have my books and stuff like that, but my website, I discuss the paranormal openly, even about my own experiences growing up. Before I publish, several of my articles, I will personally go to my mother and ask her to read it prior to me publishing it, because I don't want to embarrass her or anything like that. And that's the great thing about my mom. My mom's always major thumbs up. She's like, Sheila, that is so awesome. You need to publish that, And then that makes her even more inquisitive. She gets to ask me more questions about things, and I'm like, yeah. Because my mom, she's pretty awesome. She's been, when I was younger, I was scared because, of course, like you're saying, you didn't want to disappoint your parents, and I did the same thing. But my mom has been so receptive. She is just absolutely amazing. I could not have asked for a better mom. I love her to death. So, my family's pretty good and everything. I've got some really, really supportive friends, so I've not had any bad experiences as far as that goes right there. I'm very grateful.
Do you consider yourself one of the lucky ones, considering that it did go smoothly for you? Because there's a lot of people out here in this field that absolutely
get ridiculed.
Exactly. They get ridiculed. They get put down. And this is just by their own family, never mind their colleagues and friends.
Right. Well, and that's the misfortune of things as well, because I do believe in being open-minded and everything. No, my mother and I, we've had, my family and stuff. We've not always had our perfect moments and stuff, but, it's all about love and compassion and everything, and being open and stuff like that, and being able to understand. And, I do consider myself lucky, and I believe with life in general, it's all based on perception. How do you, as an individual, take, somebody's comments? Now, their comments may not even realize how, selfish they're being with their comments, but that doesn't mean that we as an individual, as the individuals that we are, should take it as a negative thing. There's always a way to turn something around into being a positive attitude. And I push that with everyone and, with everything and stuff. It's a learning process. Just because somebody else has a negative attitude about it, that's only because their belief or they're not educated about it, but you can't let that bring you down. So use that as a stepping stool, as a learning process to push you more and more into the right direction that makes you feel happy about yourself.
And that's the big one. You have to feel happy about yourself. At what point, Sheila, did you decide that you wanted to start focusing more on writing about the paranormal? What took you down that path? Because everyone has a story in regards to that.
That's the crazy thing. That kind of goes way, way, way back, and that goes back to my mother. I remember being 12 years old, and the film Pet Sematary, it was based on the novel by Stephen King, came out on, the silver screen. My mom took me to see that, and I remember sitting there in the theater, and my eyes were just absolutely wide open, my mouth hit the ground, and I'm like, this is one of the greatest films ever. And everybody tells me that the book is way better, and I understand that. I'm a huge Stephen King fan. But I don't know. I know that's horror, but that's just, that pushed me in the right direction as far as more and more learning about that, too, and stuff. And then, like I said, with my own personal paranormal experiences and everything, it was just more fuel to it, and it just made me more and more excited. And every time I think about it, I don't know, it's just like fire, and I just want to go towards it, and it's just, I enjoy it every step of the way.
When you decided to write the paranormal, did you think it would turn into a novel, or did you start off with little articles or research papers? How did it work for you?
Well, the Spirit Within was actually it started off as a kind of like a self-help book to kind of help people, even though it's a fictional book, it's kind of like a story of empowerment to, help people to overcome, any adversity. But then something told me to write, to put some of the paranormal twists in there, put some supernatural abilities and everything. And I just went with it. And I'm currently slowly but surely working on the sequel to it. And this next book has even way more, has like double the amount of supernatural abilities and powers than the first book has. So I just go with it, and I follow my instinct, and the more I get into it, the more I do it, and it's just so much more fun.
I have a question from Joseph in the SOR Space Travelers Club for you, and he is asking, how does one control being brought down by feeling other people's emotions?
That's a great question, Joseph. When I was younger, I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to push out people's emotions, and unfortunately, that's when I started. I would mingle their emotions into my own, and it was really hard, especially growing up as a teenager, because that's emotional time anyway. But as I got older, I learned, and I tell anybody and everyone to, practice meditation. Meditation is a phenomenal practice to help, to clear your mind, to focus on your own energies and the energies around you, accepting only positive energy. And when I start feeling negative energy, I kind of envision it's going to sound silly, but I envision like this bubble of white surrounding light around me. And I'm very spiritual with my beliefs, and I ask, the universe's energies and everything to only allow positive energy around me. And even though I can feel other people's emotions, that's how I differentiate their emotions from mine. So meditation has been a great tool with helping me with that.
Do you find meditation is something that is very important in your life? Do you find a lot of time for that, Sheila?
Well, unfortunately, I don't find enough time, I don't believe. But meditation is, to me, it's a world of wonder, because not only can it help you with, your own abilities, your own psychic abilities, your own empathic, clairvoyant, whatever you want to call it, it's also a great way to just calm your spirit, calm yourself, calm your mind, because I don't care who you are. We've all got busy lives. We've all got something going on. And sometimes we literally have to stop and smell the roses, and just to stop what we're doing. Even if you only take 15 minutes to meditate, that's time that is very important to us as individuals, because so often we put ourselves on the back burners, and that's when we lose sight of who we are. And when we lose sight of who we are, we lose ground, and then we lose focus of our goals and dreams. So I do believe that meditation is very, very important, regardless if you're working on your ability or if you're just wanting peace of mind. It's a very important tool to incorporate in your life.
Well, I can tell you, I'm one of those people, and apparently being left-handed doesn't help me out at all, because apparently left-handed people have a mind that just continues to work and find it very difficult to have meditative sessions. How do you get your mind to slow down in order to relax, meditate, and just think things through? Because, man, ever since I was a kid, I even have trouble sleeping at night, because the minute my head hits the pillow, my mind is racing, and I should have a notepad right beside me, but I'm that idiot who always thinks, you know what, I'll remember it in the morning, and I never do.
Well, that's something we have in common. I'm left-handed. I mean, I'm ambidextrous, but I write everything left-handedly, so I know exactly what you're talking about. I think I'm tired beyond all measure, but I lay down, and as soon as I lay down, that's when my mind just pops open with all these thoughts and ideas. And I actually do have a pen and notebook on my nightstand, so I have woken up at 3 a.m. with this raging idea in my head that wouldn't allow me to go back to sleep, and so I do pin it down, and that has helped me out tremendously. So, it's funny that you brought that up, because to me that works well as well. I can be driving down the road and just go into work to my day job, and all of a sudden it will eat me alive if I have an idea and I can't write it down. So I know that, like I always tell people, the creative mind never rests.
Do you find, though, that you have to do a certain routine in order to meditate? Because everybody does it differently. So let's go down that path with you. If you were to calm down, relax, and get into that state, how do you do it?
My best way, and, what I always tell people, if you get upset because it's not working for you right off the bat, don't let that discourage you. Because like you were just saying, Dave, we all have our own ways of doing things. And what I do, when I want to meditate, it's easy for me to just get in a silent room, which a lot of times we're not fortunate to have a silent room because of, everything that's going around our daily lives. But even if you have to sit there and meditate in your bathroom, it doesn't matter. To me, I love to light one white candle, because that just helps to, make the atmosphere serene, puts the white light protection in the air. It's just very, very peaceful. And that's when, and sometimes your mind will race continuously, as you begin to meditate, but then that's when you start pushing it out. And what you can do, how I do it, I envision like a light inside me as well. And as the light is inside me is like positive energy, it grows and grows and grows and gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it permeates outside my body. And then as it's doing that, it's pushing out all of the negativity, all of the racing, crazy thoughts. And then when it does that, it's not only is it encircling me around, with white positive energy, white light and everything, it's also calming my mind. And when I reach that state of mind, and while I'm doing this, I'm taking deep breaths, inhaling slowly, 3 breaths at a time, and then exhaling slowly, 3 breaths at a time, and then I'm repeating that process. And that helps to calm the mind. And, it might take someone several tries to be able to do that. But it's okay. And then I know other people who use music in the background. I don't use music in the background because, to be honest with you, I kind of find that distracting. There is meditative music out there, but it's just not for me, because I like, when I'm meditating, I want it to be pure quiet, pure silence.
Try having that with a 3-year-old running around. It's impossible.
Yes, I understand. I know.
It's impossible. My little guy, I have to say this because I love him dearly. I come home today, and every day I come home for my daytime job. Mm-hmm. He runs to the stairs as I come up the stairs into the kitchen, and I have to hand him my lunch bag, and he goes and puts my lunch bag on the counter, and he'll run up to me in his cute little voice, because he has this little high-pitched lisp, and he goes, "Hey, Daddy, guess what? What? Guess what?" And I'll be like, "What?" And he'll go, "Wrestle."
Oh!
And then him and I have to run to my bedroom, and I got to throw him on the bed, and, today he hurt me. This is the first time in about a year he hurt me. Every day for a year. Every day I get home from work, it is wrestling time, and today he hurt me. But it's funny because, like with him, today he actually, and I'm sorry to go down this road, it has nothing to do with the show, but I'm a happy dad. And I don't really care what anybody thinks about that. So I own the conch, so I'm going to speak about my boy. Anyhow.
Exactly.
Anyhow, today I get home, and right before the wrestling talk, or I look at him, and he's taken a washable felt pen literally all over his body.
Oh,
and so
wow.
as I'm wrestling with him, and we're still, we're still in the late stages of potty training.
Yep.
And so he's half naked, and we're wrestling on the bed, and I'm throwing him around. And then I realize that, because he goes to stand up on the bed, and he, how kids bend over, they straighten their legs, and their head is still down because, the head is heavy. And I'm staring right at his little butt, and he's got felt pen right up his butt crack. And I'm like, so I call my wife over, and I'm like, how does this happen? How does this happen? And she's like, oh my God. Anyways, I had to share that story because I haven't stopped smiling and laughing about that one all night.
But that's a great memory, though.
Oh, yeah.
And you can share that when he gets older and he has a girlfriend. You can be like, hey, remember the time when?
Oh, exactly. Absolutely with that. Absolutely.
Right.
It's like with my middle daughter. She has her first boyfriend relationship going on. And I'm still waiting for the perfect moment to drop the line. Remember in Disneyland when you picked your nose and ate it? So I did not. I'll see the devil's eyes when that happens.
Right.
I got a question from
steam
Gloria.
coming up.
I got a question from Gloria here. And we're going to get more into the whole empath side at the top of the hour, going into hour number 2. But I do want to get this one in here. And she's asking, can a person learn how to be more of an empath?
I believe the answer to that would be yes, and some people may disagree with me, but this is how I believe. I believe that we all have certain abilities to our own, depth of perception, however you want to say it. But some of us are more apt to opening up to that. And if you're an empath, like when I was younger, I knew I had something within me as far as an ability goes. But as I've gotten older, it's become stronger. And I think that comes with more of an acceptance type thing. And because the more that you're aware of your ability, the more you're willing to work with it, the more you're open-minded to accepting it. And you're looking at it more with a positive attitude rather than a negative attitude. You're scaring away from it. So I believe the answer would be yes, because if you already have an ability, I believe that we have the power to strengthen that just by opening our eyes and opening our hearts to it and embracing that gift and turning it into something wonderful. Because, like I said, a lot of people have abilities that they're terrified of, and which that's completely understandable because not everybody wants their gift. But with me, it grew stronger because I opened my heart to it. So I believe, yes, Gloria, I do believe in that.
Eric has a follow-up question. He is asking, can a person be too empathic? It seems like it would be easy to lose oneself.
Well, I don't know if I would use the phrase too empathic. I do understand what he's saying, though, because it would be easy to lose oneself. And that kind of goes back to when I was a teenager, when before I learned how to control things and everything. For instance, like if I'm in a large room or a large area and there are a lot of people, and I would become a sponge, meaning that there's so many different people around, of course. And with there being so many different people around, that means there's so many different types of energies, and when you're not really familiar with what's going on, it's easy to absorb all of those energies. And so I don't know if you would want to consider that as being too empathic because you're absorbing things. But, and then that goes back to learning how to control that ability and to put it under, protecting yourself. So I don't know if you could be too empathic because a lot of people would say that would be being too sensitive. But I don't ever see that as being a problem because to me, the more you open your ability, the more you can help others.
I agree with that. As someone, I really had no idea what being empathic actually meant until I met my wife, and she's like, and literally she says, don't try and lie to me, don't try and hide things from me because I will know. But I can tell you, I lied and hid that engagement ring that she had no clue when that came out. So I was able to win once. Once I was able to win. Take that,
well,
lady. I'll scream that upstairs to her. But
well, see, everything happens for a reason. That was supposed to be a blessing in disguise right there, so that was good.
Exactly. When you talk, we'll just get into the empathic conversation now, since it seems to be going that way, and that's kind of the way we do things around here on this show. For a lot of people who don't know what empathy or being empathic is it much different than empathy, or what is it in your mind?
In my mind, it's just how it is for me. And like I said, it's going to be like clothes for an individual. Everything is going to be different for each individual. I know that sounds like a weird analogy, but that's just how it is. We all have our own different perceptions of things. And for me, being an empath, it's just, I really don't like using the word sponge, but because I can absorb things and stuff like that. But it's easy for me to be able to pick up on the emotions and, the energies of the living and the dead as well, because I can go into an old location and tell you if it's good energy or bad energy, even though no one's there alive anymore. But being empathic, not only, I can pick up on the emotions of others. I can walk into a room and automatically tell if somebody's having a bad day. And sometimes it's kind of hard for me to be able to open up as to who it is, but usually it comes up pretty quickly. And other people are drawn to me for some strange reason, and when they are, they come up to me and they seek my help, and so that's a gift. So being an empath to me would be able to help others and being able to feel and sense the energies and the emotions of others. I personally cannot stand anything negative. Anything negative, I feel a sense of, it's kind of hard to describe, but in my abdominal area, I feel a sense of like a crazy vibration sense. It's almost like a nauseating sense. And that is very physical to me. And it's not to the point to where I'm hurting, but it's to the point where, honestly, I feel like I'm going to throw up. And so I completely will not tolerate any kind of negativity at all. So, being an empath, it's very important to be able to, know your own abilities and know your own strengths and know how to handle your abilities.
Now that you mention that, it triggers a memory in me. I used to work at this one place before I moved north in British Columbia here. And literally, you could tell what kind of a work day it was going to be when you parked in the parking lot. You could feel the energy. And it wasn't just me. Like, it was people who were just walking to work. It's like, and you'd meet up with them in the parking lot, and they'd be like, wow, feels tense around here today. And literally, you're still 100 feet from the door before entering. You know what I'm saying?
That's pretty scary.
There's a lot of people who can feel that, and a lot of people do pick up on negative energy. A lot of people pick up on positive energy.
Absolutely.
Does that mean, then, that the majority of the population is actually empathic, but people just don't know or don't use the term?
Well, and then that's the thing too, and because I believe, there are so many people out there. The Earth's population is just constantly growing, and there are so many people out there with so many different amazing abilities. And the reason why I use the term amazing is because once we learn how to use our abilities, we can move mountains. The thing, not physically, of course, but there's so much of our brain that we don't use, and if we were able to, and there's nothing wrong with saying that and everything, but it's just because of the way we were raised, how things were just a few short years ago, how things were 50 years ago, 100 years ago. We, as individuals, as humans, we are conditioned to believe the way that we are. And so I believe that there might be, there's a sense of awakening with, the way things are becoming nowadays, because we're starting to break away from old traditions. And since that's going on, we are opening up to certain things. And being an empath, I honestly believe that everyone, we can do that. All you've got to do is just not be afraid. And all, because I've talked to some people before, they're like, I just don't understand how Sheila, you can go up to somebody, a complete and total stranger, and just open up with a conversation, and that person just hugs you out in the clear blue. I said, I hugged them back. What's wrong with that? I don't understand how, that's my theory right there. I don't understand how they can't do that. So, I mean, it's weird though, because it's all, I keep saying, it's perception and the ability of opening up to our gifts. I do believe that we all have an ability. We have to be aware enough to open up to it. And with, our upbringings, with our religious backgrounds, however you want to call it, and there are some non-believers, and that's perfectly fine, because, that was what makes us all individuals. But, if we were all able to, be aware, I think so much more could happen, so much more positive things could happen.
Interesting comment in the Revolution Radio chat room from Mystic Murrell. She is saying, for me, it's easy to get caught up in other people's drama as an empath. I think a person has to use their own discernment as to whom to open up with, because some people you just can't open up to because they are completely toxic. How important is that to discern every single person you deal with?
Well, that's very important, too, because like what she's talking about, I've come in contact with people like that, and a lot of times I call them hooks, because what they do, they want to hook their energy into you, and a lot of times they don't even realize that they're a negative person. But sometimes people just become so self-absorbed with their own drama that they want to pull somebody else into it, and then when they do that, it is toxic. And being an empath, it's hard, to be able to break away from that sometimes. So it's very, very important to also learn how to say no. So when you're confronted with a certain situation, it's important to be able to say, it's okay, I'm not going to deal with this, and just walk away. That doesn't mean you're being a rude person. That's just, you've got to protect yourself as well.
So how do you protect yourself? Do you use crystals? Do you use prayer?
I do. I have crystals. I use crystals, and I use the white light protection. I use candles as well and everything. So I believe in that, and I have a spirit guide, and I refer to her constantly, and she's been a blessing to me. And anytime I feel like I'm in a negative situation or something like that, I call upon her, and she helps me out tremendously.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. I carry, right by this show, I suffer from depression and anxiety, along with, having these own weird things happen to me on a daily basis. So, I know, right beside me, I have a couple of stones that are more like orbs that if I need something right now, I'll just reach back. Like if I'm feeling anxious or just feeling down, which today, for some reason, I feel high. I'm feeling, really high on life right now. But if I need something, I'll just, during the show, I'll just quickly reach over, grab one of them, roll it in my hands while I'm speaking on the air. So do people in your mind, for instance, when I do that, oops, damn near knocked over the Bud Light Red Light, when people do that, are they using it as a crutch in order to try and hide the problem, or is it really a calming effect when they use a crystal or they use something that is anything that like an ointment or maybe rosary beads or something along those lines to calm them down?
Well, I believe that, it's very important to use whatever works for the specific individual. Like you're saying, rosary beads. If they work for that person, then that's perfectly fine. If you want to carry, like a crystal in your pocket, and then you feel like you need to grab it anytime you need to, you're like when you're out and about, carrying on with, busy life, that's okay. Or if you don't believe in that, if you want, just do like the candles with the white light protection, but then a lot of people don't believe in that. It's all about, what works for you. Or if you're driving down the road and all of a sudden you feel like you're having a really, horrible day, if you want to throw out a prayer, that's fine too. Just whatever works well for you. There are several people out there, so many different people that use mantras as well. And, I strongly suggest to anybody, whatever you find that works well for you, do it. And don't let anybody try to, to talk you down or anything, because it's not foolish, because a lot of people are like, oh, you can't do that, that's just stupid or something like that. But those are the ones who don't believe in things like that. So, I just tell everybody, do what works well for you. I use candles. I use crystals. And sometimes I'll wear a piece of jewelry, whatever I feel like I need to wear. Sometimes I'll wear amethyst or, rose quartz or whatever the case may be, or, just whatever works. Or sometimes, like I said, I'll even call upon my spirit guide. There are several different methods that I use that help. And I wouldn't consider it as a crutch. My thing is, If you have that ability to be able to get aid from something else, then that's perfectly fine, because, we're here to help each other out. It's about helping others. It's not, it's not all about, being self-absorbed or anything. You've got to be able to share your gift with others, be able to help others out and everything. So, and of course, we are going to fall into some paths with, negative energy and everything, but then that's when you have to tell people no as well. So that's, it's just whatever works well for you, because some people, they thrive on negativity and drama, and those are the ones that you just kind of got to, push out of your life and learn that it's okay to do that.
And that's the most difficult thing, because as humans, we all have this want, this need to try and heal someone who is hurting, heal someone who is depressed, someone who always continually has that black cloud around them. I mean, we see so many young girls, they always want to date that badass guy who, is in the fast car, is maybe into the drug scene or into something that they shouldn't be, but they are convinced that they can help him, tame that wild beast inside of them. You know what I'm saying? And yet it's such an unhealthy environment.
Absolutely.
How do you transition to try and keep that negativity out of your system so you don't fall for it, almost like a succubus or an incubus?
Absolutely. Well, the thing is, though, because unfortunately I've seen it happen, many times, through friends and family, whatever, they get into a certain situation where they're drawn into, like you're talking about, it's a toxic relationship. It's hard when you are placed in that position to wake up one morning, metaphorically speaking, and say, you know what? I've got to put on my big girl pants, my big boy pants, whatever you want to say, and just leave. Because unfortunately, a lot of times, even though it might be a negative situation, it's still a weird, if you want to call it, comfort zone for the individual, and it's based on fear. And a lot of times when that person is in a toxic situation, it's because the other party keeps on telling them that they can't. They keep dragging them down. So that tears them up. So the individual who needs to come out of it, they need to learn how to become strong and to just push that situation away and come out of the relationship, or anything like that. That's what my book was originally. It's about the spirit within. Cassie, the main character, she's in a toxic relationship, and she finally finds the strength to leave the situation, and she finds power. And when she does say, I've had enough, she moves on, and she finds all of these wonderful abilities, and she's able to move on. So that's very important, to be able to do that and to, get rid of those hooks that, the negative energy can put on you.
How do you deal with negative people then if you're an empath? Because there's a difference between, pushing them out of your system. But I have noticed, well, I'll give you an example. The person I work for in my daytime job, him and his wife are getting a divorce. And she also works there too. And she is one of the most evil, spiteful people I have ever met in my life. Like when she decides that she doesn't like you, it doesn't matter if you bought her roses every day for a year. She would throw them in the garbage. That's just the type of human being she is. And I'm on the hit list for her. So, yeah, I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. And I've realized this for months when we were new into that business that I work at, my daytime job. I work in financing, and that's about as far as I go in what I actually do, besides moonlight as a radio show host. But this woman, like where I took it personally, that I could do no help or do anything good to please her. Literally, my wife and I, because we were new, we figured, oh, okay, it's her birthday. We've been here a couple of months. Let's go get her a good bottle of wine. And literally found the bottle. I had to go in the next day to literally get some paperwork out of her office. Found the bottle of wine stashed in the corner, which I knew she would drink because she's a wino. But here was the disappointing part. And this is the type of human that I am dealing with here. All her birthday cards that she had received were on her desk. Mine was in the garbage.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was just like, wow, really? You know,
Right.
seriously, like, this is happening right now, and I'm like, I just moved up here, and I'm going to be treated like this. So what I have decided to do to deal with this woman, you know, because, you know, I don't want to bring negative karma to her, is I pray for her every day. Good. Every day I'm at my office, I pray for her. But here's the funny part about this, Sheila, is every day that I pray for her, the anger and the vile vigor and vitriol that comes out of her on a daily basis, it seems like she almost turns that positivity that I'm trying to send her into pure hatred and evil. How do you get around that?
Well, unfortunately, she sounds like I don't know her or anything like that, but she just sounds like she's absolutely miserable. So, unfortunately, when you encounter people like that, what I tell people is that, I mean, it can't be directed towards you. I mean, of course it is what you're seeing. You're seeing the facts there and everything, but sounds like she's got something turmoil deep inside her. Who knows what it is? You're the new person, so she's automatically going to target you because you're the new person. And she's just not a happy person. And people like that, there's nothing that you can do for them. You're praying for her every day. You're sending her out positive vibes and everything else, which I believe that's amazing. That's really good on your part, and you're doing what you're supposed to. That makes you feel good. But you got to be careful by doing that because you don't want to become so engulfed with doing that it can turn it around on you. And then because you're starting to focus on, doing that for her, which is a good thing because you're trying to pass out those positive vibes by prayer and everything. But then you can easily become drawn into it. And my recommendation on something like that would just to be completely avoid her. And other people might disagree with me on that. But after you've tried so many different attempts and they, without any positive reinforcement or anything like that, you don't want to become victim and get drawn into it. So, that's where I would tell you just, if it were me, I would just be like, okay, she doesn't like me. I'm moving on, I'll only say hi to her and, company meetings or whatever else you got to do, whenever you have to, because I've worked for people like that. I had this one boss one time years ago. I would personally stick my head in her office and tell her, good morning, so-and-so. And she would just barely crack her eyes up towards me. And I know I said it loud enough for her to even say something to me, but she was just so vicious. She had the most sour look on her face constantly. You would have sworn up and down it was tattooed on her. So I just learned to ignore her completely.
Well,
because, you can't put yourself in that.
I actually snapped on her one day in a very polite way. She started challenging me, and I figured, you know what? At this point, I really don't care. And I asked her point blank. I said, why? I said, let me ask you. I said, why don't you like me? I make you money. I make you a lot of money, and I've done nothing to ever treat you poorly. I said, why don't you like me? And she just stood there and looked like, like we call it the glare. And when she was given the glare, I said, seriously, I said, you haven't treated me like a human being since I've been here, since my third day here. What is your problem with me? Because I'm done with it. Start treating me like a human being, and I will start respecting you. I said, that's it. And I walked away. And little did I know that all the doors in the building would then rattle.
Oh, wow.
And I had to do a bank run, so I ended up leaving the building, but everybody was like, what did you say to her? What did you do? I said, I stood up for myself. I said, because I'm sick of this crap. And ever since then, she tries to trip me up, and I catch her, and I just laugh about it now. And I go to her soon-to-be ex-husband, my boss, who I absolutely love and adore, and I say to him, hey, this is what's going on now. And he just rolls his eyes, and he's like, patience, young man, it'll be over soon. Well,
then that's good then. Okay.
Yeah. Gail actually has a very interesting comment in the SOR Space Travelers about this. She actually says, Dave, evil recognizes good, just like good recognizes evil. And it's that simple, isn't it?
I believe that too. And because I used to serve subpoenas for a living, and I got so tired working in the the legal field. serving a subpoena, it was not my fault that somebody was getting served. I was just a messenger. And I got, targeted all the time. People were always rude to me and everything. And I went back to the paralegal for whom I was, serving the subpoenas. And I said, Melissa, I am sick of this. People are calling me names. I'm sick of it. I'm just doing my job. She goes, let me tell you what to do. I said, what? She goes, you need to smile. I said, what do you mean? She goes, every time somebody sits there and says something rude to you, smile even bigger. I said, what do you mean? I said, that's just stupid. She goes, no. Think about it. She goes, Sheila, if you were trying to irritate me and make me angry and I smiled at you, what's that going to show you? I said, it's going to show me that, that I'm not getting to you. She goes, exactly. You cannot ever let somebody else have power over you. She goes, don't let somebody else's negativity bring you down. And I said, that makes sense. And that was more than 20 years ago. And ever since then, I've still taken that lesson with me. And that is true, though. Evil recognizes good. And a lot of times evil is jealous by that. And so they're going to want to bring you down, trying to get, because it makes them happy. And, that's what I would consider as a hater. And, haters are always going to hate no matter what you do. So, just do what you got to do, keep on passing out those positive vibes and, just keep smiling. I know it sounds simple, but it's true. Haters going to hate. Don't let it bring you down, and you just keep being happy.
Well, the funny part about it is she runs the reception area as well. And in my 13 months there, since I moved up north, we are now on receptionist number 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot in 13 months.
Oh, yeah. So you think the average lifespan of a receptionist is 3 months there.
Wow. Well, that right there tells you. Right. Especially like you were saying, your boss, the guy, he's phenomenal. He's great telling you don't worry about it. Things are going to, change soon. That goes back to her. She's just miserable. Just avoid her.
And on that note, we got music, so we are going to take our break out on Spaced Out Radio. Sheila Renee Parker is our guest. Her book, The Spirit Within. We'll be right back after this break.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, News Director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where 2 members of our team will be available to answer your questions.
Have you ever wondered about those weird and strange creatures people have reported throughout history? Do you wonder if those stories are real? Me too, and that's why I started Cryptopia.us. Hey, this is Rob Morphy, crypto historian. Join me once a month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will get into the odd and bizarre reports, from the Dover Demon to hairy hominids and everything in between. I will break down what people like you and me are seeing at spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Strange creatures lurking in the night? The sounds of wood knocking in the forest? Odd happenings right out of a fictional world? These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Have you ever had an extraterrestrial experience? One you just couldn't explain? Well, maybe I can help. Hello, I am Samantha Mullet. On the second Tuesday of each month, I will join Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio to bring a human aspect to ET contact. It's something I've lived with my entire life, and I'd love to help you understand. Let's share our experiences. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of each month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Rivulet Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrr.wix.com/rivuletrr&r.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium, Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Do you have a topic or a guest that you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Let us know at spacedoutradio.com, where you can sign up to become a Space Traveler member today. Or you can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you all along for the ride as we round out a new week here at SOR. I am out after this show, wandering out. My backpack is packed. I'm heading out into the wilderness, into the darkness to find my Zen, my Chi, maybe a Sasquatch cave so I can pick up a Wi-Fi signal to listen to Spaced Out Weekend this weekend with James Tyson and Elizabeth Anglin, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, Saturday and Sunday night as they kick off Spaced Out Weekend starting tomorrow. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can now listen to us on TuneIn as well as iTunes if you missed an episode or you want to check one out in the past. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, you can check out the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's only $5 a month. With that, you get your name automatically entered into monthly prize draws. You get access to private group interviews. We're going to kick that off soon. You get access to private postings on our website and so much more. Unlike the other guys who just give you access to the archives, not us. We're giving back to you, the valued Spaced Out Radio listener, but you got to be a space traveler in order to collect on that. You can check out the SOR Space Wire by our news director, Eric Markham. Him and Eric Cooper will be on hour number 3 with Dave Scott and E Squared coming up after this hour. And so much more. Everything is at spacedoutradio.com. Tonight we are talking with author Sheila Renee Parker. Her book, The Spirit Within, can be found on Amazon. It's like a paranormal romance. Oh, it just makes me want to play the Barry White while seeing ghosts fly around. Sheila, welcome back. Oh, I do got to mention one other thing. I do have to mention one other thing. Revolution Radio is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. So if you're tuning in and listening to Spaced Out Radio on Revolution Radio, the Double R machine needs your help, so donate today. Now, finally got all my promos out of there. Let's get back to the show, shall we?
Absolutely.
All right. We've been talking a lot about empath and what it's like to be empathic and how to protect yourself and, you know, especially from negative people and everything like that.
Right.
How do you use it in the paranormal field?
In the paranormal field, it's, to me, you know, it's easy, like I was saying earlier, you know, to be able to, being in the paranormal, you know, that's being open-minded. Of course, you can't just believe everything that you hear or, you know, see, you've got to sit there and be skeptic-minded as well because you can't, there are so many things out there that have rational explanations. But then there are also things that are, you know, more of the paranormal field, you know, reasoning as well. And being an empath, like your wife was saying, you know, she can tell whether or not, you know, someone's lying or something. And being an empath, for me, I can sense, you know, whether or not something's real as well. And, you know, I can pick up on somebody's energy, you know, going into the, you know, a ghostly house or something. And there are so many reports out there about different locations being haunted and stuff, but it's, you know, sometimes I think a lot of that's just hype. And being an empath, it's easy for me to discern that. And so, I don't know, it's kind of like, I wouldn't say a divining rod, but it's like a detecting system. You know, it kind of helps me to pick out certain truths and everything, you know, like your wife was saying about certain things, you know, being an empath as well. So that has helped me to keep my feet solid on the ground as well. You know, a lot of people, like you were saying earlier, don't necessarily believe that empaths should be with a paranormal investigation and stuff like that. But I say, why not? You know, because it can help put another perspective on things.
Now, you don't technically investigate the paranormal. You research it.
Right. Well,
What's
I've been to so many... Well, okay, I've been to many, many different places that were supposed to be, you know, reported to be haunted and everything like that. When I say I don't investigate the paranormal, like the houses and stuff like that, I do investigate, I do research the paranormal. I just don't conduct investigations because I don't have the equipment, like, you know, the meters and stuff like that. I don't have any of the investigative equipment that the paranormal investigators use. So I don't conduct investigations as far as things like that go. But I do research the paranormal, and I talk about the paranormal. I write about the paranormal. I visit haunted locations and all these other things. And not necessarily just to get the vibes from the ghost stories, but also the vibe from from the history as well, because I'm a huge history person. And so it's all about knowledge and learning, and I love to learn about, you know, real life things, and, you know, and people do pass on. There is, you know, energy, people die, energy doesn't. So to research that, and it's very fascinating to me. And then when you research that, it opens up a whole new realm of things as well, because there's not just spirits. Like when we pass on, there are other entities as well that we don't necessarily see. So by researching all of that and everything, that helps me to better understand what's on the other side of that the door, if you want to say, so to research it, it helps to open the mind. And I believe in that, and like I said, you have to be skeptical. You can't just believe every single thing you hear or read, but, and when I don't do the paranormal investigations, I just don't have the equipment, that people use. I don't have the meters and things like that.
So you're basically going in and using your own feeling when you're doing it.
Absolutely.
And you're collecting your thoughts, and you know your thoughts well enough, Sheila, to know whether or not which direction you should go, or if you're receiving communication or not.
Right, absolutely. For example, my family and I, the house that we were living in now, we purchased it a year and a half ago. It's 18 years old. It's, it's a brick ranch style home. It's it's on an acre. And as soon as we were coming to check the house out for the first time, as soon as we pulled off the road onto the property, my husband and I, we were automatically drawn to this place without explanation. And it was really weird. It wasn't a scary feeling or anything, but it was like we had to be here. And the house that we're living in, with it being 18 years old, the previous owners, they didn't care for it as well. So there had to be a lot of painting and a lot of, upkeep and stuff like that, renovating and stuff like that. So we had to do a lot of that. And as we were doing that, I had to be at my day job at one time, and so my husband took the day off, and I came home to, after my day was over, and he told me, he goes, Sheila, he goes, all day long I have been watched. And I said, what do you mean you've been watched? He said, there's just something in the corner that's been watching me all day long. He goes, it's nothing scary, and they haven't tried to communicate, but he goes, there's an energy, there's a presence here in our house. And so I automatically picked up on the sense that it was a female. And she wasn't trying to be malevolent or anything like that, but just an observer. And does that mean my house is haunted? I don't believe it's haunted. I believe the energy is around, there are spirits around, and they're just passerbys, And I think with, whoever is here or whoever comes through here drew us to this house, and I think that was the presence that created the magnetism from us to when we found this place, So, that's the weird thing, because my husband, he can sense things as well. He can see, spirits and orbs and things like that. He's clairvoyant. So we were automatically drawn to our location, our house. And so, there was never any history of anyone dying or anything, but to be able to sense that, it's pretty intense. It's pretty cool.
So define when you go into a place that you haven't been. Let's say you enter a library or a restaurant, or maybe you go out for dinner at an old tavern or something along those lines, or you walk by a cemetery. Are you immediately thrust into the empathic state where you are picking up the energies of what is surrounding you?
I'm always in that state of mind. I really, really am. And sometimes it's more intense than others, but I never just completely shut it off. I let it stay open and everything. As long as I protect myself with what I was talking about earlier with the energy and everything, with the positive energy and all, I keep it open because I believe, to me, I don't, I'm not afraid of my gift anymore, so I just leave that, when I walk by certain areas and locations, the more energy I do feel, it's kind of crazy because like earlier I was saying, when I feel negative energy, I feel nausea. But when I feel a lot of energy throughout my whole entire body, there's just this like jumbled sense of, vibration going on. So that does happen, occasionally. So sometimes you just kind of have to walk away from those places and it sounds crazy, but you've got to shake it off. Just kind of like just a bad vibe, just shake it off, or just a weird, crazy vibe, you shake it off. But going around, like cemeteries and everything, I don't really get scared by cemeteries. I actually find them to be quite soothing. That's another reason why a lot of people called me weird when I was growing up, because ever since I can remember, cemeteries have been one of my favorite places to be.
There's a lot of chatter in the Spaced Out Radio chat room going on right now in regards to being an empath. And Eric brought up a very good point. He was saying that he wonders how many people out there are diagnosed by physicians or psychiatrists that are giving medication to people who are actually either empathic or having ESP. or something along those lines?
That's really, really great. That's a great point to bring up too, because I've often wondered the same thing, because I've talked to other people and who have medications that they take and everything, because other people have called them crazy because of their abilities, and they start to believe that they're crazy. So they fall into the category of taking the medications to help make them feel sane again. So, that goes back to, being open and embracing your own gift and, learning how to stabilize that for your own sanity purpose. So that's a very, very valid point that he just brought up. That was excellent.
Rough statistic, just in your own mind, how many people do you think are on medication for these problems right now that really don't need it because they do have a gift?
Oh, that's staggering, I would believe. Because, all right, you stop and think, okay, not just with our modern times right now, but go way back into, when insane asylums and stuff were really prevalent. I know we still have our mental institutions and everything like that today, but even way back when, if a person was considered as a prophet, and a lot of times people would automatically view them to be crazy, they would put them in, an asylum or something like that. And that's been done for centuries. And, however many eons ago that's been going on for years. And, and then that's another thing that makes a lot of people view those with abilities as crazy people, because of our past, of how our conditioned minds have, developed and everything like that. So, and because it's all based on fear and misunderstanding. But that's been going on, I believe, for years and years and years. To guesstimate a number, I couldn't even fathom one.
I'll give you an example. I made the mistake as a parent. My daughter, unfortunately, inherited my depression and anxiety. And I was having a chat with her counselor over the phone one day, her school counselor, and we were talking about it, and I made the biggest mistake. And I said, does my daughter ever talk to you about seeing dead people? And she goes, there was a long pause and then, she goes, well, that's something we should really check out, because if she's seeing things that aren't there, we need to get her on some medication.
And
I said to the counselor, I said, actually, no, you won't. And she goes, excuse me? I said, it runs in the family. And this has been going on in the family. It's a family trait. And she sees things. And I said, instead of trying to medicate my daughter, maybe you should actually go back to school and learn about the fact that this exists.
Good for you.
Yeah. So it's just amazing. Especially with children, like we try and tell children, I think all children are quite empathic on feeling everything, and we see them, and it's when they start the school learning from friends, going over to friends' houses, teachers, and everything, where they start their blockages. I think we can agree on that.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
But
and that's the thing too. Go ahead.
No, please finish.
No, I was just going to say, because my kids, they've always known what I was with my abilities and everything, and I've always been very open with my, abilities. And I have always told them, do not discuss your mother in school or anything like that, because a lot of people would view me as being crazy, because I didn't want them to be judged. And so, but I still told them, I said, regardless of what, you have to be open-minded. Just because someone's different, don't disregard them. You accept them. And, don't sit there and judge people. And that's always been a huge thing of mine as being a parent. Like you're saying, we pass down traits, and people have asked me, as far as being an empath goes, were my parents empaths? Honestly, we never discussed it growing up. I don't know if my father was, because like I said, he never knew of my ability. He died, a few years ago, and I never discussed it with him. My mother, I've talked to her about certain things. She's never, experienced or anything like that, as far as an empathic ability goes or anything. So I don't know. But my kids, right now, they don't, say that they have any kind of abilities or anything like that, but I do teach my kids to be open-minded and stuff. So like you're saying, there are professionals out there who automatically want to close the door and put people on medication and stuff. So, and being in school, that's a hard, pill to swallow as well, because kids are judgmental. So that's got to be rough, but, kudos to you, Dad, for sticking to your guns.
Well, and you have to be careful too, though. You have to tell your kids, like, for instance, my middle daughter, my stepdaughter, she would wake up and see dead people in her room. That's just the way it was. And she started telling people, you know, when she was 9, 10 years old, she started telling her friends at school that I have ghosts in my house and I see dead people. And we finally had to sit her down and just say to her, you know what, you have a gift. You know, not everybody can see that, and not everybody understands or believes. And we don't want you to lose that gift because it's a special gift. And so it's probably best if you don't mention that at school, because the kids can start to bug you and the teachers will start asking some silly questions that you shouldn't have to answer. So when she got that point, when we put it on her level, she kind of just zipped it up, right? But it's funny now, like fast forward to today, I mean, my daughters one's in grade 12, one just started grade 8, and I'm trying to figure out where the hell time went on that one. But, you know, it's funny now because I have a couple of boys living with me from the local hockey team, and one of the first things they asked when I was showing them around the house, I take them into the studio, they're like, oh, what's this all about? And I'm like, well, this is my studio. And I said, I broadcast this show, and these are the topics. And they're like, oh, wow, man, that's really cool. And I said, yeah, but the key is keep quiet about it. I don't need a reputation, and my job is kind of public. You know, my daytime job is kind of public. So they got on the ice, and a good friend of mine is actually one of the coaches of the hockey team. And they're sitting there talking, and he's like, so, did he tell you what he talks about on the radio show? And they're like, we're not supposed to talk about it. But since you know, yeah, it's really cool, and I got to learn all this stuff. And, you know, they went off about it, right? So, you know, they all had a good laugh on the ice. So I lucked out there. But you do have to be careful with who you're talking to and what you're talking to. So as a parent who has this, did your kids also inherit this gift?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, they've always been very open-minded and everything, but I don't, they're open-minded with what they, you know, things go on and everything, but they're not really, I'm not saying that they don't have a gift or anything, but they've never opened up to me about having a gift. Now, I've talked to them openly about my gift, but they've never, you know, counteracted with their own abilities or anything like that. I mean, they've shown interest in what I have, but they've never said, you know, hey, Mom, I've got that too. So, you know, and, you know, even if they did, they may not want it. So, you know, I can't say that for sure, you know, because, I mean, we all handle our things differently. Now, my older son, he's 24 years old. He's pretty cool and everything, and he's, you know, I think to an extent he probably could be. But, and I've asked him some questions, but, you know, I don't push the issue or anything like that because I know how it was growing up and everything. So, you know, if they do have it, then, you know, they'll come out when they want to. And I've always opened that door and said, you know, feel free to talk to me about anything. And so, and I think that, like you're saying, you know, being a parent, you've got to keep that open and let your children know that it's okay to talk with you. So that's good.
So how do you explain your gift to your children then? Do they know about it? Do they know what you feel or what you sense?
My kids I've never kept my kids in the dark about anything, about my spiritual beliefs or anything. My kids are open-minded. And I come from a very, very diverse family. We have, each one of us has our own different, you know, belief system and whatever. And a lot of people, I keep that quiet a lot of times because, you know, it's, as long as you're following the right path within your heart, I think you're doing good. But a lot of people wouldn't necessarily see that as far as having different beliefs go. But, you know, my kids are pretty open. I'm very, very grateful for my children, you know, and for them having the open minds that they have.
Would you take them on a paranormal hunt?
If they showed interest in it, but, you know, my kids would be like, That's the crazy thing about it, though, because, well, my younger son, he's so much into his sports and his academics and everything like that. He's like, oh, you know, that's cool. And he's like, you know, whatever. My older son, however, he does like horror stories and stuff like that. You know, he loves a good, you know, ghost, you know, stuff like that and everything. He doesn't like the gore and stuff like that a lot of times, but he's pretty cool. So he probably would go with me. My husband, on the other hand, though, he'd be like, oh, my God, when are we going? So, yeah, he's totally different.
Your kids look at you strange, weird, wondering, oh, God, really? You're talking ghosts again?
Well, not necessarily do they look at me weird for that. They look at me weird for other reasons because, regardless of what I do to try to be a cool mom, they look at me weird anyway. Like I've got 3 horns growing out of my head. But no, they don't look at me weird like that at all or anything, Sometimes they'll even, like, oh, that's cool, But, they don't look at me weird like that at all. They know they have a weird mom regardless of what, so there's nothing I can do to help that one.
With your abilities, how has it been with those on the other side? Have they ever told you how they found your energy, or have you communicated at all with them in regards to that?
Well, not as far as that. I think just energy is attracted to energy anyway. The way I look at it is like spirits or entities and things like that. They see, conduits or however you want to say it. They see with whom that they can communicate, and a lot of times, the ones like you were saying, the kids and everything, your children, they can see spirits and stuff like that. Spirits will come to those who are ready to accept them. For instance, the reason why I'm bringing that up, I was doing a paranormal speaking event a couple of years ago, and there was a mother and daughter that appeared, part of the crowd. The daughter was psychic. She was early 20s, the mom, early 40s. The daughter's very psychic, very, clairvoyant. She could see spirits like nothing. And the mother, her brother had passed away a couple of years prior to the event. But the daughter, which was the niece, she could see her uncle all the time. And, everything was always cool. The mother, she came up to me, she goes, why can't I see my brother? I said, well, because you're not ready to accept that, because your brother can sense that. He doesn't want to frighten you. And a lot of times that, I believe, spirits will come when they feel comfortable as well, because a lot, like our loved ones, they don't want to come to us and scare us, and a lot of times they're like, well, people, they can't see the spirits, they can't see their loved ones. Well, because, they've moved on, or if they're still around, they don't want to frighten you. Because after my father passed away, my dad came to me several times in the form of dreams. And people, there might be a lot of skeptics out there that would say, oh, well, your father, you were just dreaming about him because he was fresh on your mind. No, my dreams that I have my visions are different than just your typical dream that you would have. My visions are very, very clear. They're very detailed, and I get a different sense with them. It's hard to explain. But my father came to me several times in dreams, and the last time he visited me was a few months ago. And I always get a sense of positive energy. My father in my dreams, that he doesn't really talk, my visions, he doesn't really talk, but there's always a sense of love and warmth. And every time when I awake from these visions that I have with him, it's like he's right there in the room with me, and I could literally feel him hug me. It's hard to explain, I know it is, but to sense that knowing and everything like that, it's definitely there, and I can't deny it.
I had the same thing happen with my grandfather. He hasn't come around in years, but when I first became a dad, or before I became a dad, pardon me, my uncle and I had the exact same dream for 2 months after my grandfather passed away, which absolutely tripped me out because I really didn't believe in that type of synchronicity at that time. But when my daughter was about 4 or 5 months old, I remember picking her up and saying to my ex-wife, I said, can you smell this? And I checked her diaper, and it was clean, and she goes, I don't smell anything. She's like, well, what do you smell? And my grandfather used to be a lawnmower mechanic. He had his own little lawnmower business in his garage, and he would fix lawnmowers, rebuild them, so his shop always smelled like a mixture of oil, grass, dirt, gasoline, and, just a real musty type shop smell. And my daughter, at about 4 or 5 months old, when I held her, she smelt exactly like my grandfather's shop that I hadn't smelt in years. And my grandfather at that point had been deceased for about four years when this happened.
But so he was there.
Absolutely. So I immediately got on the phone with my grandmother, and I'm like, hey, Graham, you gotta help me out here. And I told her what happened, and she kind of starts giggling and crying, and she takes a deep breath, and she goes, you know what? She goes, be thankful. And she goes, you have to understand the one thing that your grandfather always wanted was a little girl. He had 3 boys.
Oh, that just gave me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was absolutely insane, because to me, the smell would be like, I don't know, like if you have your nose buried in a rose, and you smell that rose. Well, that was my grandfather's shop, and it was all around the room.
It permeated.
And here I am, like it is emanating off of my daughter. It's not over by my TV, not over by my couches, not down the hall. It is emanating from my daughter. And the weirdest part, I will never forget this, is my ex-wife kind of looking at me like, I don't smell a thing. I don't understand. So you take that for a message, and you're just kind of like, wow, that was absolutely unbelievable. Unbelievable.
It was meant for you. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I have a question from Gloria in the SOR Space Travelers Club. She is asking, how do you, Sheila, take on a site that has a known terribly violent past?
Oh, wow. Good question. I've been asked that one several times. And my best way goes back to, protection. If you are about to enter any location or anything like that, you always want to, don't ever enter with your guard down, because then you can become an open sponge or whatever wherever you go, energy can follow you as well. So if you enter a place that's violent, negative, and everything like that, energies can follow you back home or whatever. So this kind of goes back to meditation. Before you go to any kind of area, regardless, even if it's a good area, you always want to protect yourself, But when you're going to a location that that has a horrible past, an evil past, or anything like that, it's always good to prepare yourself. And I don't mean 5-minute preparation prior to going there. I mean, it can start, earlier in that day, or even the day before, and then that's where another good example of meditation can play into the role, because you want to prepare yourself. And by doing that, you're letting your psychic awareness, you're letting your higher self, you're letting everything inside you, within you, and around you know what's about to take place, and you're becoming, you strengthen yourself. And by meditating, and that kind of goes back, like you were discussing earlier, we were saying with the crystals or the rosary beads, whatever works for you. And just, strengthen yourself if you have a mantra, however. But, I know a lot of people, I've spoken to a lot of people, and they, do prayers prior to. Like me, for instance, I am a huge believer. I constantly do the candles. I love the candles. And I have a little section in my room that's specifically for the candles and my special things on there. And when I light the candle, I always say it's like a little prayer to go with it. And so as the flame of the candle gets bigger, I envision the blessing getting bigger and sense protection as well. And that's when I say I have a close relationship with my spirit guide. And I always say, I need you, especially right now. I need your protection. And it's weird, because when I say things like that to my spirit guide, it's like right now I'm getting the sense of like warmth and compassion. It's just really, really weird, because it's like just this overwhelming feeling of positive energy, kind of like you were saying earlier, Dave. You said that, you felt like you were on a high today. It's kind of like that, it's a good feeling and everything. And so it's kind of like an empowering feeling, like I'm ready to take on the role. Okay, I got this. I can do this. Let's do this and get this over with. And so, that's how I prepare myself.
I do have to mention something off topic. If you are a member of the SOR Space Travelers Club on Facebook, you got to check out this picture that James Borg just posted. He went outside for a cigarette break during the break, and he has just posted a pretty cool picture of a UFO that he caught over above his house. It
wow, that's cool.
Looks like a black triangle with a big white light right in the center. It's pretty amazing. I'm looking at that right now. So if you're a member of the SOR Space Travelers Club, head over there. I'm going to get James to post that in the Spaced Out Radio group too, so that way everybody who's not in that club can have a look at it. Pretty amazing. Love my UFOs and aliens. Just love them.
That's awesome.
Gets me excited. Well, I'm going to go off topic with that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
As an empath, have you ever had any extraterrestrial type feeling?
I've never had an experience with a UFO or an encounter of anything like that, per se. Do I believe in the existence? Absolutely, because I think it would be pretty egotistical for us to think that we are the only existence out there. And I know there's a lot of people out there that would probably chop my head off right now for saying that. But I mean, there's so many planets out there, so many solar systems and everything. I mean, to think that we are the only existence out there, that's just, to me, that's silly. So I've never had an experience, but there's too many reports out there, to say that there are different types of existences out there. I mean, there's for eons, even back way back when, with caveman and stuff like that. There were even drawings of UFOs in the caves. I mean, there's something out there, I mean, you can't just shut the door on that one.
See, my wife and because I find that if I'm around people who are connected, my energies just go haywire.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually can tell the difference between extraterrestrial energy, cryptid energy. Say we're in a forest, she can tell, okay, well, there feels like black bear energy, or it feels like Bigfoot energy or cougar energy, or she can tell whether or not it's paranormal energy. I'm still a little unsure with myself because I don't have a great amount of confidence in what I feel or what I perceive. But she is just like, hey, I can feel extraterrestrial energy. We're being visited right now as we speak, and it's just bang, it's on. So I'm wondering, that's why I asked if you had the ability to maybe feel the difference between, say, the paranormal side, which she describes as being a little bit heavier of energy compared to the more etheric extraterrestrial energy, which seems very light and a lot brighter.
Well, I mean, I've never had that experience, so, from my personal experiences, I can't really say on that one. And I would welcome any type of experience like that, though. I think that would be really interesting to encounter. I mean, as long as it's all good and everything, of course. But, I think that's phenomenal that your wife can do that. That's awesome.
Well, it came naturally. Mm-hmm. It came
that's
very
awesome.
naturally
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, and that's what I tell people. Everybody, regardless of who you are, we're all like snowflakes. Our abilities are unique to us. So, we all have our abilities to a different, way and everything like that. So, it's all different,
I absolutely agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
When you go out searching and you are doing a paranormal research or investigation on your own, is it your personal choice that you don't bring any gear with you? Is it because you want to feel everything? You want to get that genuine feeling? Or do you carry something like an EVP recorder? Do you carry maybe a K2 meter or something along those lines? Or are you naked of technology?
I am absolutely naked of technology. I really don't even like bringing my cell phone. I would bring my cell phone to take pictures and stuff like that. But to me, I find that even, I like to be able to feel things. If I ever had the opportunity to have the equipment and everything, I would absolutely welcome that with open arms as well. And because I am open to, any type of, experience or anything like that, because I believe it's all an education and learning from different ways and broadening our horizons and senses and stuff like that. But as of right now, I just haven't done that yet. And I'm completely open to the idea of, doing that. And so hopefully, in the near future, I can do that. So I just haven't done it yet. But because ever since I was a kid, I've always just, ventured out and was, like a wide-eyed kid learning about different things and stuff like that. So I guess, technology just never really crossed my mind, as I was growing up, because I would just walk in, like full force and, kind of like no fear type thing and just go in without anything. And so it just, I don't know, I never just gave it much thought about certain things, until I got older.
Do you find, as we go into the whole fact that a lot of paranormal teams don't like having the psychic involved, they don't like having the empath, they don't like having someone who is intuitive, do you find that as a detriment to what they are truly trying to find out in the answers of the paranormal?
Maybe, but then that kind of goes back to, like, how they want to conduct their own investigations, because, everybody wants to do things their own way. And they might feel intimidated by certain gifts of other people, or like you're saying, they may not believe in certain gifts, or they may, I don't know, because if it were me, I would find it beneficial, because that person may be able to sense things that even some of the most sensitive equipment pieces may not be able to pick up, if that makes sense. And it's good to rely on technology, but sometimes you can't just necessarily 100% rely on the technology. So I believe having different venues, different openings, different types of methods, I think that's, the key to understanding the unknown and to acknowledging it even more. But if they don't want to do it, then I think that's just personal preference.
So where do you sit in that debate? Do you think, are you for it? Are you thinking that maybe everybody should bring in as many tools as possible? Because in reality, you would be considered a tool.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that's kind of hard to explain. I mean, not explain, but to answer, I guess, because if I were to, if a group came up to me and asked me if I would be willing to do an investigation with them, and then if they were to discover the fact that I'm an empath, and then if they changed their mind about me wanting to have me with them, I wouldn't get offended by that. I would just look at it as that's just their beliefs and that's how they want to do it. To each his own is how I would say it. As simple as it sounds, to each his own.
Well, it is a great big debate, and I can almost tell that you're wanting to stay out of that debate. Kind
of, sort of, because honestly, I have friends who do both, so I don't really want to irritate anybody.
And I can understand that. But on the flip side, when we have so many different factions of the paranormal, right, do you not feel that with all those different factions arguing whether or not a psychic is good, whether we should be just straight debunking, whether we should be playing with ghosts much like we do Pokemon Go, whether we should be, trying to solve the ultimate mystery in life, which is there life after death, with all of these under the umbrella of the paranormal, it's pretty easy to think that if we can't get together as a group, and there's so much hypocrisy in each and every one of those groups, do you not feel that that's maybe the reason why the mainstream is not taking this subject seriously?
That's a very, very valid point, too, and I believe that as well. That's excellent, because that's another thing, though. It's a lot of it, and it kind of goes back to Hollywood and everything else, too. You got all of these shows on TV and stuff, and I don't know, it's hard to explain, but all of these shows, it's interesting because, the paranormal and everything else like that, but so much of the actual facts and everything gets so twisted because of the shows, the way that things are and everything, and it just makes it hard to put, like, a serious side to it, like you're saying, and then a lot of people will become feared of it all, and it's just really, I don't know, it's hard to say because there's so much uneducated, people about that and everything. And to talk to someone seriously about it, they want to just brush it off and say, oh, that's just, hogwash, or however you want to say it. But I don't know. The paranormal, discussing the paranormal it's a very, very hard, it's like a double-sided, sword on that one. It's hard, because you don't want to go one way too much, because then you don't want to look like a fool. And then you don't want to go too much on the other way, because you want to try to make sure that, all the facts are in there. So it's hard. It's hard to discuss the paranormal, because, it was always hard when I was growing up. So, but, slowly I do discuss it openly and, doing my own things and stuff like that. there are more and more people that I'm finding that are opening up to it. But it's still, so many people out there still think of it as, you know, a lot of people think it's fun and games, and it's not just fun and games. There is a serious side to it because, you know, when we die, you know, there's so much out there, you know, that a lot of people don't even know exists. And it's not just fun and games. It's not just a Ouija board, you know, contacting this other side just to play, you know, and wonder, Kurt Cobain, are you still here? You know, it's not like that. You know, there is a serious side to things, and people need to acknowledge that and to step up. And, you know, we're not just alive, you know, we're dead, and, you know, it's coexisting, and, you know, it's respect for both sides.
Question from Shar in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. She is asking, what do you believe is the reason that some spirits do not cross over?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. My personal belief, I don't believe that sometimes, I don't think that the ghost, or not the ghost, but the spirit, I don't think they're ready to cross over, because a lot of times death is so abrupt for them, and they're not ready to let go of the life that they once had, or they're not ready to see their loved ones, you know, diminish from their lives as well, even though they've passed on. And because, like, a lot of times people will ask me, they're like, well, why do you think so-and-so is hanging around? And I tell them, I say, well, you know, we grieve when we lose a loved one, but they also grieve as well. And because they lost a life, we lost them, but they lost everything, you know. And I know it sounds kind of hard to explain, but, you know, that could be one reason. I don't know, you know, some people, I think they're afraid of how the other side, and, you know, with their beliefs and stuff, I think maybe sometimes people, when they die, are they afraid they're going to go to hell? You know, a lot of people don't want that, you know, so I think sometimes they think that, you know, lingering on behind, you know, would be the safer bet. So for, you know, it's hard to explain as far as that one goes as well, because there's so many different possibilities, so many different theories to why a ghost or a spirit would linger behind. And because I think some spirits are just absolute mischievous, and they just really don't want to leave either, you know, because, I mean, it's, you know, they're just not ready to go into the light either. So I think there's just so many different, you know, answers on that one, you know, whether or not the loved one's not ready to go, or, you know, they're not ready to let go of their life, you know, even though they're dead, they still want to be around. They still want to make sure that we, the living ones, are still okay, you know, or, like I said, you know, sometimes they might be afraid that they're going to go to hell, you know, whatever their belief system is. And, you know, it's just, there's so many different theories, you know, and, you know, it's definitely interesting. That's another reason why I do all the research that I do, because it helps me to open up my mind as far as my education with it.
Follow up from Shar. Mm-hmm. She is asking, do you think that they can't visit after they've crossed, after they've went to the
No, I believe they can. I don't see why they wouldn't be able to, but that's my belief, you know, and that kind of goes back to being, you know, what your perception would be. And I'm sure there are a lot of people that would be like, oh, once you cross over, that's it. You know, okay, because I believe my father has crossed over. Okay, and this kind of goes back to, like, Dave, what you were saying about your grandfather, you know, the odor that you smell. There's no smoking allowed in my house whatsoever. I don't smoke. My husband smokes outside. There's no smoking allowed whatsoever in my house. My dad smoked a very cheap cigarette. Okay, and cheap cigarettes, they have their own distinct odor. Every great once in a while, there will be, and it's only around me, there will be a very, very faint cigarette smell, odor. No visible smoke, you know, to be seen. It's just the odor. And when that happens, it's very, very brief. And it's the exact same odor of the cigarettes that my dad smoked. And I still, to this day, will get experiences from that. So I do believe my father has crossed over. But, I mean, he visits me. I swear he does, because where else would that smell come from? And no one else in the house smells it. And like I said, there's no visible sign of the cigarette smoke. There's no smoking allowed in my house, period, at all. But for me to be able to smell that strong odor of his cheap cigarettes, I know it's my dad.
It's almost comforting, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny, though, because I'm like, hey, Dad, I love you. And that's kind of like when you were asking me earlier about my son, you know, my younger son. Do they, you know, do my kids have the abilities and everything else? They haven't expressed that right there. But my younger son, when he goes, what are you doing? I said, oh, your grandpa's near. And then he'll just, loudly say, hey, Grandpa. And I think it's funny. And I'm like, hi, your grandpa's smiling right now. He gets busy. I was like, yeah. So it's pretty cool, though, because, like you said, it's comforting because I know my dad's here. Does he stay here all the time? God, I hope not. I would hope that he'd have something more to do after life, but I do believe that they can come back. They come back to check on us. And, they will send signs, too. To someone else, you might find fallen, rose petals somewhere that might be significant to your life and to that loved one that you lost. Or you might constantly get a vision of, I don't know, butterflies or whatever the case may be that might be only significant to you and that loved one that you lost. And that's, in my opinion, that's their way of letting you know that they're there for you. That's their, that they're still in your heart. And I think it's very important to keep them alive. That's how we keep them alive, is in our hearts, by doing that. That doesn't mean that we're keeping their spirit here, but, to keep their memory alive.
Dawn has a question in the Space Out Radio chat room. She's asking, do some not know that they have actually died?
I believe that to be true. I absolutely believe that to be true because, unfortunately, a lot of times death can happen so sudden for us, like, unfortunately, like a murder or even a crazy car accident or something like that. It happens so suddenly that our life is literally sucked out of our body. And that could be another reason, going back to why spirits may not want to cross over, because they may not even know they're dead. And so that's a very, very good question, and I believe that's to be absolutely yes on that one.
Well, it's funny because that leads into the next question from Watchdog, where she's asking, does the spirit know what's actually on the other side before deciding to make that jump?
That's a good question as well. That, who knows? Who knows? And then that kind of can go to their own beliefs as well, I don't know how I could answer that one. I don't want to find out the answer anytime soon. So, it could be, they could be really terrified themselves because of the unknown. They don't know. So why would you want to, open that door and go to somewhere that you don't even know that exists? It's scary.
In this SOR Space Travelers Club, J.A. is asking, do some victims stay in the afterlife condition because the true motive of their death, let's say a murderer's identity, has never come to light?
I believe that could be really, really valid as well because, I've heard of cases, I've spoken to people and everything that have, they help, like clairvoyance and things like that. They help police detectives and stuff, solve, unsolved cases and stuff because they are getting visions and information from the victim, like you're saying. And once that victim has helped put like you're saying, the murderer, behind bars or something, that's when they can move on. I do find that to be, that's possible, I believe, because they're helping to solve the case. And, then that's when their mind could be put at ease, and that's when they can move over.
Going to the Revolution Radio chat room here, if it would load up properly for me. And, of course, now it goes right into stall mode. Mystic Mirel is asking, Sheila, do you have a certain diet in order to help yourself open up to your empathic gift or ability to sense spirits? She's just wondering because it seems like the processed food around would mess with any gifts that someone may have.
Well, that's a great question as well. I'm a vegetarian, actually. I've been a vegetarian for 13 years. I don't really get into fried foods. I can't stand them. I don't do any kind of greasy food or fattening foods like that. I love fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. I love salads. I do have a major sweet tooth, don't get me wrong. I'll eat my chocolate any day of the week. But I would honestly prefer a bowl of fresh fruit or fresh veggies over any kind of sweets or, processed food in a heartbeat, just because I believe that they're absorbed into the body even better, and we have to take care of ourselves in order to remain healthy and to keep a healthy mindset.
I'm not giving up bacon.
That is actually one meat that I do miss, but I'm not going to venture back to that one. I can't do it.
You can do it.
Well, a weird off-topic story. About 5 years ago, my friend took me out to lunch on my birthday. and it was potato soup. And the waitress said, "Oh, there's bacon bits in it. You can pick them out." And I said, "Okay." She brings me the bowl of soup, and oh my God, there were so many bacon bits in there. There were huge, ginormous pieces all the way through it. I stomached it, I ate it, and I was sick for the rest of the night. Couldn't even eat anything else, and I was on the verge of throwing up because my body just wasn't used to processing the meat anymore.
Bacon makes no one sick. It only makes people better.
Makes you better. Well, it did make the soup taste better. It did. I mean, I can say that.
Yeah, we'll get you back. It's funny because I had a friend of mine from Ontario come out last week, and he's extremely empathic, and he helped open me up. He's an energy healer. His name's Pascal. Mm-hmm. Absolutely love him. So, Pascal, if you're listening, love you, bud, and miss you. But the funny part about it is we go out for lunch, and he's like, "Come on, I'm going to buy you lunch." Okay, let's go out for a burger. And so I order a burger. And I order a bacon cheeseburger because I love my bacon. And there's just something with bacon and cheese on a burger that, makes my mouth froth. And just talking about it right now, I can feel it happening. And so he calls the waitress back and goes, "Yeah, triple that bacon on there. I want to see him eat this." So I literally had a bacon burger, and I'm proud because I nailed it all. I nailed it. I just shoved it in there and nailed it.
And you were happy with everybody.
I was, just to piss him off. I did it, We only have, Sheila, we only have about a minute and a half with you. Man, this 2 hours has flown by. You've been absolutely fantastic. I would love it if you give a quick description about your book, where we can find it.
Okay. My novel is The Spirit Within, and it can be found on Amazon.com as either a paperback or for Kindle. It's about a young lady named Cassandra Blakemore. She is in a rough situation with an abusive alcoholic boyfriend. Long story short, she finds empowerment, strength to, rise above, and all the while she is finding out that she has abilities like telekinesis, psychic visions, and, empathic things like that as well. So she is on a major road of enlightenment and awakening. So I'm working on the sequel to it right now, so stay tuned for that one. That one's going to come up soon, hopefully. So the book on Amazon has been getting some outstanding reviews, so I love everyone who's been doing that. So please check out The Spirit Within on Amazon.
Thank you so much, Sheila Renee Parker, for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. Good to meet you. You were fantastic. You take care.
You too. Thank you.
We're going to be right back on Spaced Out Radio with E Squared right after this.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where 2 members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with the UFOR On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you checked out the SOR Spacewire at spacedoutradio.com yet? Every day we post the latest stories regarding the weird, strange, and completely unbelievable. From cryptid and UFO sightings to the conspiracy world, we tackle it all. Hi there, I'm Eric Markham, Spaced Out Radio's news director for the SOR Spacewire. And if you have a story, I want to hear it. Email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Every month on Spaced Out Radio, we look into the deep and dark reports of cryptids roaming around the world with me, Rob Morphy from Cryptopia.us. I would love it if you would join me and host Dave Scott as we delve into the most arcane stories and reports regarding creatures of the unknown. My job is to hunt down the details and bring the evidence forward to you. These aren't your regular Bigfoot stories I'm talking about either. You can find out more about crypto history at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us on Spaced Out Radio? Head to spacedoutradio.com to check out the latest shows, guests, and sponsors. And don't forget to sign up for the Space Travelers Club You'll find all you need at spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back to the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. The first 2 hours flew by with Sheila Renee Parker. We bring in Eric Markham and Eric Cooper, E Squared. They do a little show on Spaced Out Radio called S4 with E Squared. We'll bring them on momentarily. I do want to remind you that Uncle Jimbo, James Tyson, and Elizabeth Anglin are in Saturday and Sunday night in the cabin. I'll keep the fire warm for them as I leave right after this show. I'm going off into the wilderness to find my Zen, my Chi, and maybe a good Wi-Fi signal for me in order to pick up the weekend show. I hope you take the time to tune in as well at spacedoutradio.com. Hey, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can listen to us on iTunes, as we are now on there. If you want to download any previous episode, you can listen there. You can also check us out on TuneIn. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, you can always join the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's only $5 a month. With that, you get access to private group interviews, your name automatically put into monthly prize draws, and so much more. Unlike the other guys, we're going to give you a hell of a lot more than just access to our archives. We bring in the double E machine here. And before we do, guys, hold on. I do have to mention, if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, it is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Do us a favor. Donate today. Gentlemen, what is new? We haven't done an E squared in, it seems like, forever.
I know.
We haven't.
Like it has been.
I know.
And I got to mention, you know what? E squared are actually Traveler members.
Yes, you are. You're
That's
Space
true.
Traveler members. Both of you.
So, yeah, a lot's been going on since we have Paracon down to one damn day, and we lost our venue.
What happened there?
You know what? We just don't even get me started. This town, we'll just say this, well, actually one person in this town, and I'll leave it at that. Yeah, no, our contract for our venue actually magically disappeared. And so, actually, if we get the venue we're trying to get, it is a very large lodge in the middle of the mountains. 10 minutes in concrete, so it's still in concrete, not a big deal. But no, to cut costs, because now we have to pay for our venue, because we weren't going to be paying for our venue before. Nothing is affected. It's just one day. All the topics will still be covered with less speakers. So it's actually going to be a better event, even though it's only one day.
Well, I'm still looking forward to heading down to Concrete, Washington to speak at the Forest Moon Paranormal Paracon, the first annual. And I hope it's a resounding success, because I'm coming in on the Friday night and I'm leaving on Sunday. So
yep, and we are having breakfast before we roll out.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, and I'm going to get a few beard tugs in there, too, because you got an awesome beard. If you haven't seen Eric Cooper's beard, it is immaculately kept. His wife may not like it.
Being in search and rescue, it keeps me warm in the mountains.
I believe that. That. Gentlemen, the last couple of nights we've been talking paranormal. And when I'm back on the air on Monday, we're going to actually talk more paranormal from a paranormal team in Bozeman, Montana. And it's weird for me because I haven't done a lot of paranormal shows, yet leading up to Halloween, I've got a lot of paranormal planned out here. You know, and the one thing that I will say that you taught me, Eric Cooper, is that the word paranormal is so vague and so expansive in regards to the, it's an umbrella word, if we can use it that way.
Right.
Do you think that more people are starting to treat it that way rather than using the word paranormal just for ghosts?
It's still, no. I have to disagree because, I mean, listening to the show, even the last few paranormal groups you've had, and nothing against them, don't get me wrong at all, but they're still seeing the word paranormal as ghosts and hauntings. Because, and granted, you only had 2 or 3 so far, and I look forward to hearing more because I do like to hear different perspectives of what their groups do. And I do try not to get disappointed because, again, last night was cool. Last night they actually we saw eye to eye on many areas, and I did go and comment on their page that they did a good show. And tonight, I liked your guest tonight. She was pretty right on too. But again, not many of them cover UFO and alien, or Bigfoot for that matter.
True enough. And I have to say something about our guest, Sheila Renee Parker. You know, to get an empath's point of view on what the paranormal was like, that's something that we really haven't done in a long time. It was refreshing for me to be able to listen to Sheila and just hear what she goes through. And you know what? I really enjoyed the fact, Eric Markham from the SOR Spacewire, that when she goes out into the field to do her own research, she's only trying to work for herself. She's not trying to put something on camera. She's not trying to put something on film. She's not trying a television pilot or anything like that. But she is doing it for her own personal investigation to see what she can learn in order to help her write future novels. What do you think about that someone's actually doing a paranormal investigation without actually using any of the technology?
Oh, I think that's wonderful. I mean, she probably has more success than the people that run out there dicking around with all their technology. You know, I think
you're right.
Well, something I noticed, I went to a Joe Bonamassa concert. I paid a decent price for my ticket. I had a decent seat. I'm watching this man perform, and it dawns on me, about half the audience is watching it through their iPhones because they're recording it. Why the hell even bother going to the concert if all you're doing is staring at this little window? It sort of defeats the purpose. You know, the few times that I've been out, or the encounters I have had with the supernatural, have been when I had no gear whatsoever with me. You know, it's like you always see the coolest things when you don't have a camera, or you always hear the best things when you don't have something to record it with. I think maybe if we're not messing with the technology and concentrating on making sure this crud works, maybe it opens us up to experience things firsthand a little better.
I agree with you. Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal, what do you think? Do you think the technology that is being spread around today, and literally people are spending thousands upon thousands of dollars on just one piece of equipment, let alone dozens of pieces of equipment? Like the average ghost hunting bag for any team is in the thousands of dollars. Is it fully necessary?
No, not at all. Not a darn bit. I mean, and as you know, and I know we have new listeners. No, I prefer old school. We use a $20 digital recorder. I do have a dual reading digital thermometer. That's it's laser, and I can see if there's a difference in temperature. I use half the time I use my cell phone for a camera, if not my regular digital camera. And then I think the EMF meter is one of the key pieces, because the EMF is going to tell you if there's energy there. And the downfall with the EMF is the fact that if you go into it, and you have to take into account all the time, anytime you go into an old building, and I always test it. I always hit it with, hit the wall or whatnot to see if there's a reading, because it tells me it's going to be old wiring in the house, and that's going to throw it all off anyway. Now, I will say Wednesday we have a pretty large case. I've got everybody coming, and we are bringing heavy-duty radiation equipment in with this one because it is a possible vortex portal. The way they described the property is it was like walking into another dimension. So I am bringing heavy-duty equipment in on this one. And I've got about 10 people showing up, along with mediums. So I think it depends on the case. Now, do you need high-tech equipment? No. I am impressed with the ghost box, or the spirit box, the one that Bill Hauser uses. But will I run out and get one? No.
I'll just use a Ouija board even though I don't have one.
Exactly.
I'm saying that just to antagonize you. I'm saying it to antagonize you, my friend.
Yeah, he's using he's an analog man in a digital world, Eric. He's using the analog spirit box.
Exactly. And I'll use my beard as a pendulum. There we go.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Eric Markham, we had a good laugh at you last night, and I know you heard it because you responded, about the night with the pendulum when we were on Skype.
Yes.
And for people who may not have heard that story before, I would absolutely love it if you explain what happened that night.
Oh, my God. Yeah, it was just you and me Skyping, and we were, as I remember, right, we were doing things and seeing how much agreement between our pendulums. And there was a little bit of disagreement, and I said something about mine's kind of erratic. I'm not sure what's going on. And you asked your spirit guide, Jordan, to stop my pendulum. Mm-hmm. And that pendulum stopped. I'm watching this pendulum stop like within 2.5, and it was going pretty good. And it was like in about 2.5, maybe 3 swings, it's sitting there pointing straight down. And I know I would love to. I wish you could have done a screen capture of my face, because I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I was listening on the other line that night.
The way your eyes grew, Eric, when that pendulum stopped, it was absolutely hilarious for me, because I was literally like, I was killing myself laughing, and here you are in just sheer shock, because what happened, audience, was Eric was like, I'm not sure if this is working for me and everything, and he's, Eric's a scientist. He has a science degree, very, very intelligent man. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to try this. And Eric's in North Carolina. I'm in British Columbia, so that's about 3,500 miles between us. And literally, I said on the camera on Skype, and I've got my pendulum, dangling in my left hand, and he's got his dangling in the right hand, and they're both moving back and forth in similar directions, and Eric's like, well, I'm just not sure if this is working or not. So I figured, you know what? I have enough confidence in my pendulum usage that I said to my spirit guide that I used to contact with, his name is Jordan. I said, Jordan, can you please make Eric's pendulum stop? And be damned, like Eric said, it stopped, and it was absolutely like his eyes. I will never forget that. That is one of the best experiences that I have had in the paranormal world. For me, was absolutely watching that situation happen, because your eyes literally came out of your head. It was hilarious.
Well, at that point, it's okay. We're doing this, and the scientist's mind is saying, "Well, there's a little bit of agreement here. There might be something to this." But as soon as the pendulum stops, it's like, "Holy, it goes from I want to believe to the paradigm got realigned at that moment. It's like, holy, yeah. So you witnessed a what do they call that? A eureka moment, I guess, or one of those epiphany moments. So because at that point it's a couple weeks ago we were wasn't that long ago we were Skyping, and you did it again. And it was... Yeah,
that was probably the night I was on with you.
Yeah, and at that point, it's like, well, I'm a little surprised, but I mean, it's like, okay, it's happened twice in a row. I'm a believer now.
Well, can you talk to me about that, though, as being a believer now that you think there's something to it? Because there's still people out there who will say, well, maybe your mind wanted it to stop, so that's why it stopped. what makes it different that it actually was maybe something spiritual that stopped it compared to maybe your own mind and your own senses that stopped it?
I don't have a good answer for that. It could be a subliminal force. It could be, I guess the short answer, so I don't ramble, is I choose to believe that it was a spiritual source that did it. And I'm just, it happened twice. So even if it's some kind of subconscious thing I'm making that pendulum stop, isn't that a miracle in its own right? That something like that can happen and you don't have control over it? So either way, either answer is got its own woo-woo factor.
Eric Cooper, are you a believer in the pendulum?
Oh, I am. Most definitely. And yeah, it's more of a spiritual than it is a subconscious. Because it's actually energy that makes the pendulum work. And it's the spirit that makes it, everyone is different. So, some of them say, okay, so go counterclockwise for no, clockwise for yes. Whichever way you do it. Everyone's got their own method of doing it. It's the spirits that actually make it stop. So it is actually energy that makes it all work.
Do you use one?
I have one, but I don't use it.
How come? Because you're using the beard now.
Exactly. No, there's no reason. There's no reason I don't. Again, I use digital recorders. I use, EVP sessions versus pendulum. It's just a matter of preference, I guess.
I can see that. We were talking a lot about empaths tonight with Sheila Renee Parker. Her book, The Spirit Within, can be found on Amazon right now if you want to check it out. And I'm going to be getting a couple of copies of that book. So we're going to put one of her copies of her book up for grabs on one of the SOR Space Travelers draws that we're going to be doing. And thank you, Sheila, for doing that. One of the things that really, really sensed to me that is how in tune she was as being an empath. And she didn't push it on anybody. She didn't, try and say, like a lot of psychic people out there, I'm psychic. I can read cards, or I can give you a tarot reading, or I can read palms. You know how they always, they're almost like vegans, where
she didn't have the ego.
Exactly. Like, is there a doctor in the house? I'm vegan. You know what I'm saying? Or, I'm psychic. Everybody's seen that person. They ask they're at a press conference talking to Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, and they start off, I'm vegan. But anyways, where I'm going with that. I'm trying to build up a little bit of humor here. But the whole point is she wasn't...
I'm a mediator. Suck it up.
Exactly. But she was not arrogant about it.
Right.
And the way she talked, though, it really made me believe that almost everybody is empathic. They just haven't found it yet. Coop, would you consider yourself empathic?
That's a hard one. Yes, I do feel people's emotions. Yes, I do feel, I don't claim being empathic, but I'm going to tell you right now, being a combat medic in a war zone, like I said in the chat room, that gives you migraines. So, am I an empath? I would say yes. I felt every damn one of them.
And when you say every damn one of them, like coming from a war zone, I'm not trying to get into detail or bring back nightmares or anything for you, but was that every case you dealt with, or was that just being in the war zone?
We're talking in one war zone daily. Numerous. And I'll leave it at that, because that's the worst one of them.
Right, and I can understand and express that. How about you, Eric Markham? Would you consider yourself empathic? Do you know what's going on? When you walk into work, can you feel what kind of night it's going to be?
Yes, and until recently, I just took it as that's the way things were. But I've recently been told by a psychic that I'm getting to know that without being asked, she's you're an empath. Did you know you were an empath? And I was like, well, that would explain some of the difficulties I've had getting along with people in my life. But yeah, I mean, I guess I am. I will say for the time being, yes, I've been told I am, and I'm investigating it. And it does answer some, it creates an answer for some things that have happened. So maybe, me, I'm gonna dig and dig and dig till I get to the bottom of it. But for the time being, yes, I'll have to say I do believe I'm empathic.
I would agree with the guest tonight too. The meditation will help. It'll help you identify your empathy.
I have tried to meditate, and I just can't find that calm.
Right. It's different for everybody. What works for me is Native American drum music. Nothing else works.
Sometimes the answer is right there. Okay, I haven't found it since we moved. I'm sure it's in a box somewhere. I have a CD I found at Goodwill, and it's all Australian didgeridoo music.
There you go.
I discovered quite by accident, I cannot listen to that CD while I'm driving. It trances me completely. It completely trances me out.
If it puts you in a trance state, that's what you need. You got to find what works for you.
Okay,
and it seems like that's the one that does.
Well, it would figure that my doorway to that would be music. It's like my T-shirt says, I play guitar because I love it, not because I'm good at it. But, music is a great deal of my life, so it would figure that somehow that would come full circle. Thanks.
Right.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah. And I got to say, Shar, I love Native American flute as well. Both of them. Anything Native music-wise is awesome.
I have a question from Dawn coming in the Space Out Radio chat room here. She is asking, have any of you felt the same emotion? I've been in tears all night because a friend got hurt.
It's because of your energy connection, because it was a friend. Your ties to a friend are always going to be stronger, obviously, because you're trying to think of the word, you're bonded. So you're going to feel what they're going through much stronger than if it was a stranger.
And that makes sense. Like, I've never felt what either one of you have felt, but I have had situations with friends where, all of a sudden I've texted them a message like, stop crying, life isn't that bad. And the next thing you know, within minutes, it pops up, how did you know?
Right.
It's weird how that works.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't get it.
I don't have it anymore. I don't know if my mind blocked it, or I don't feel like I've got any empathy like I used to.
I pick it up at work a lot of times.
I think if you go like on sensory overload, I guess is the right word for it. If you're overwhelmed as an empath, I think it shuts down for your own protection.
I agree.
Does that make sense?
Yes. There's times that you encounter. Well, you encountered them in worse than I did, but I do a lot of work in an ER, and there's just times that people's pain or need or fear overwhelm me. And I think I do think it's sort of there's a circuit breaker, if you will.
Right. And I was in Somalia as a combat medic, leader, I guess. I'm trying to think of all the right words here, but yeah. And if you've seen the movie Black Hawk Down, it wasn't as bad for us because we were the first unit in. But we still got shot at. We still had it almost as bad. So yeah, the smell of death. We saw you saw bodies every day. You treated death every day. And I actually got migraines probably for the first time in many years when I was there. And ever since then, that's where my problem started. So I would have to say my empathy probably shut down at that point, because it was probably about the point that I'd have to look back and notice that I wasn't as empathic as I ever was.
But that could be related to trauma due to being in a war situation and post-traumatic stress disorder that shut it down.
It could be.
You know, as someone who's never served in the military or been in a war situation, and God hope that I'm never in that situation, you know, I mean, hell, I don't even know how to even speak on that, Eric, but, you know, I can see in your point where that would be shut down. I can see where that would be one of those cases where you can't allow yourself to feel that emotion, because if you do, it could open up a whole Pandora's box of absolute nightmares of everything that you felt. So you've literally had to take that, stick it in that back storage container in the back of your brain, and double lock that storage container so that it can't come out.
Right, and then medication helps me today with that, because I still have nightmares. Not specific things. PTSD nightmares are kind of different. You can have dreams of monsters, and you know you don't actually have dreams of that exact war zone. Now, some PTSD soldiers actually have flashbacks where they actually go back, and they're walking in the woods, and all of a sudden they're in Iraq or they're in Afghanistan or wherever their trauma is, and that hasn't so much happened. It used to a long time ago, but I've hit what they call a plateau, to where I take my medication, I'm good.
Do you find that a lot of soldiers go through that? Like maybe their own empathic moments where, like you just said, I mean, maybe they're out hunting or they hear a car kick back that goes bang, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're back in that war zone? Does that happen a lot?
Oh yeah, that's PTSD. That is common. And I'd say probably you still got about 50% of soldiers with PTSD that haven't been diagnosed, because the minute you come out and get diagnosed with PTSD is the minute you get a stigma.
Yep.
If you're still planning on staying in the military, you do not come out and say you've got PTSD. Because then they're going to med board you. If you want to stay in the military, you keep it quiet. And sadly, that puts a lot of soldiers in danger. Because if you've got PTSD, you're at risk. That's basically why I got sent to the Warrior Transition Battalion, because my commander, our battalion was getting ready to go for their third tour to Iraq. And my commander and I were BSing one day, and he said, you know what, you've already done 4 combat tours. I see you as a liability, and don't take it the wrong way. He's like, you're one of my best NCOs I've got, but I've got to let you go to the Warrior Transition Battalion where you can sit and retire. And so I was like, cool, that's fine. And I went to the WTB, and I sat there for about a year. I was getting close to retirement, and an asshole major came up and said, you've been here long enough, we're going to med board you. So they med boarded me, and I got screwed out of retirement by 6 months. So I've got 19 years and 6 months in the Army.
That ought to be medically legal.
And I'm medically retired instead of 20 years, which is fine, because I still have a permanent ID card, and I still get, we're still taken care of by the VA. But it's the principle of it.
Yeah. Thanks for your service. Now bend over. Here it comes again.
Right. Exactly. And you can't have PTSD. You've got anxiety disorder. Never mind, you did 4 combat tours, but it's not PTSD. It's just anxiety disorder. Well, you see, here's the other thing. I know I'm taking time out of the show, but here's the other thing. The Army tried to give me 20% and have a nice life. I'm like, are you serious? I emailed one of our senators. It was a Friday night. I emailed one of our senators and got an email, or actually a phone call back the next day, which was a Saturday, from her office. and I explained the situation that they were trying to screw me out of, anything. They're giving me 20%, which was absolutely nothing. And I appealed it. And of course, my lawyer is like, you know what? Even if it was just an anxiety disorder, that's an automatic 50% and temporary medical retirement until they reevaluate you. So you've got this beat regardless. So, yeah, of course, they changed the ruling because, I appealed. But after I left is what was funny, which was cool, actually. Because after I left, was retired out in 2010, the senator went back to Madigan Army Hospital and did a full investigation and opened up every psychiatric, what we're looking for, every soldier was recalled for a new evaluation for PTSD. So something did good come out of it. But, yeah, they'll screw you as much as they can.
That's sad to hear. Because when they're recruiting you, we hear all the, they're waving the flag as much as possible. And they're saying, be great for your country. If you love America or you love Canada, you should serve. We need you to absolutely get in there and do your job for God and country and freedom. How many times do you hear them use the word freedom?
Not so much anymore. And we're going to discuss that on S4 on Sunday night. We're going to discuss a lot on S4 Sunday night because our topic is 9/11 because Sunday happens to be 9/11, but we're not talking about the conspiracy side of 9/11. We're talking about what happened before 9/11, what happened during 9/11, and what happened after 9/11 from a veteran's point of view.
Eric Markham, were you still in the Navy when 9/11 happened?
No, I was
You were in Boo, weren't you?
Well, I was in Spruce Pine, North Carolina, working in a small hospital up there in the mountains when 9/11 happened. In fact, no spoilers. I don't want to take any. I don't want to take any momentum from our show, but 9/11 will always have a different connotation to me because of a personal tragedy that was going on. And, for me, 9/11 was something that was happening in the background. Yes, it was a tragedy, but we were going through our own thing that day. So it's a different thing for me. Not to take away from the grief or the horror of the situation, but it probably doesn't have the same. I don't have the same depth of feeling about 9/11 that a lot of other people probably do.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard to anyway, because I saw it on TV. And actually, I didn't see it happen on TV. I saw, because like I've said, I was in Germany. And we're not going to go into it because, yeah. But I was in Germany, and we went into immediate lockdown. We had tanks going through German streets, and we'll leave it at that. But, yeah, 9/11 was a major day. But what happened after 9/11 should piss everybody off.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that on Sunday.
I may join you guys for that.
Well, that'd be cool.
That's fine. I took your advice, and we actually got his Skype phone number for you.
Oh, there you go. Smart move. Smart move.
Yeah.
Getting back to the whole paranormal topic here.
Yeah.
The past couple of nights we've heard, very different topics in regards to what should be covered in the paranormal. What should be the goal? Me personally, I'll start off on this. I personally think if you were investigating, sorry, I got a squeaky chair here. I got to throw some WD-40 on it. But if you were investigating the paranormal, and I may be looking at this way too naively, are you playing with ghosts, or are you actually trying to solve something, solve a mystery? Because when I look at the paranormal, and I'm talking ghosts here, so I don't want you to go off on me, Coop. Okay? When I look at hauntings or ghost investigations or something along those lines, there's two ways that I look at it. Number one, it would be great to use the spirits in a positive way to maybe get them to tell the history of why they are still sticking around. But more importantly, number two is I don't understand why we are ghost hunting if we are not trying to solve life's most important question, and that is there life after death? I'm a strong believer that there is, because I've had my own weird experiences that allow me to believe that. But there's a lot of people out there, like I've said in the last couple of nights, and I said it again tonight, who are using this like the ultimate reality game, like Pokemon Go. Right? Where all they're doing is they're running around, oh, I got a ghost over here. I got a ghost over here. My FLIR tells me there's a ghost over here, and they're running around chasing.
Can I break in real quick?
Sure.
Because here's what's funny as hell. You're talking about Pokemon Go. I'm sitting here looking at Pikachu on my big screen TV, frozen because my kids were watching Pokemon. But
the whole point that I'm trying to make, guys, is we have some very brilliant people in this field. I think we can all agree to that. There are some very brilliant people in this field. Yet, everybody wants to play with ghosts. Nobody wants to go out there and actually try and solve the ultimate mystery. And I find that, I don't know, it gives me a bad taste in my mouth when I think about all this time that is being wasted. And then people have the nerve to say, well, we need para-unity, or why won't the mainstream take us seriously? Well, because you're more interested in finding copper wires than proving that this is actually truly happening. And even when you do prove that it is truly happening, all you're doing is you're hoarding your evidence, and you're doing nothing with it. You're doing nothing with it. You're not trying to solve a problem on how we go from this incarnation where we have a physical body to sticking around as to why. Sure, we have theories, but you're doing nothing with it. Right? It's like skating down the ice or running down the field with the football, and you get to the 10-yard line, and there's nobody behind you for at least 30 yards, and you just stop and say, no, you know what, I'm good enough. I just ran 55 yards. I don't need to score. It's the same crap.
So that's not like the Seahawks.
Well, possibly.
Set the Wayback Machine to Chris Dishman. He was wide open, got the ball, was running down. This is years ago. It was one of the funniest things I ever saw. And there was a guy on one side of him that he could see. He was about to cross the goal line, so he starts goose-stepping, and he takes the football, and he's holding it in front of the guy that's chasing him down's nose, like, The dude he didn't see from the other side came in, hit him like a freight train, and there went the ball. Turnover, instead of getting ahead. That was one of those career-shortening maneuvers. I love that. But yeah, I wonder almost if it's a forest for the trees situation. I mean, the fact that you're actually encountering a ghost means you've solved that you've answered that question. There's obviously something after this. And I wonder if it's sort of like they're jumping over that and getting too caught up with trying to re-verify what they just, or find not justification, but find, I don't know, approval.
I agree with para-unity is never going to happen. It's a BS word. I've tried and I've given up. Para-unity is not going to happen. There's too many ego and too many ghost busters out there. I think the more paranormal groups you have on the show, and you ask them what kind of EVPs they've got. I think if we ask the right questions with EVPs and start getting answers, and if you get the same answer from several of them, kind of like what I do with my psychics. If I get 3 pings in one location, then I'll take that serious. If you get the same answers on what's in the afterlife from several spirits, then I think I would take that serious. And I think that's maybe not hard evidence, because EVPs, to some skeptics, will never be hard evidence.
Right.
But
they'll claim pattern recognition.
Right, exactly. And like I said, I was impressed with the ghost box, or the spirit box. I think that's a good start.
I understand that, but it seems like nobody has any direction of where they want to take it. Right?
Well, haven't there been a few people that, it seems like I've heard some mediums, or I've heard people interviewed where the question is, well, what do the spirits say about the other side? And they say, well, I don't know if it's a dodge because they're fakes or what, but they say, well, they're not allowed to talk about it. I've heard that. Don't know if it's true or not, but
the spirit I talked to,
yeah,
the spirit I talked to had no problem telling me what it was, and like I've told you before, when you die, when you pass over, you have the choice of going through the veil and getting in line to be reborn. Or in his case, he was a World War II bomber pilot that crashed in Germany. He chose to stay in Germany in the town where he was, I guess, stuck by choice. And he went and played in the bakery. That's what he liked to do. He liked to go mess with people in the bakery.
Huh.
And I got this from a medium. Now, is it true? Maybe, maybe not.
But are we trying to solve the lifetime or the story of the person who we are communicating with, or should we be looking at the bigger picture, Eric Cooper?
Well, to me, that was the bigger picture. That wasn't his life. I mean, sure, he chose to go to the bakery, but he explained that when you die, you've got that choice. And to me, that would be the bigger picture. Now, I know you've had some guests that actually describe and saw a heaven. I haven't heard a whole lot of other people talking about that. So I don't know. I think that's religious perspective.
Eric Markham, I'm going to ask you the question directly. Should there be a focus in the paranormal for these groups, rather than playing ghost hunter?
Yes, I think so. But you're like Eric says, there's so many egos, and I think so many people are in it because they want to be the next TV
ghost
reality
hunter.
show. Yeah, the next ghost hunters. It's like your the guests you just had on. I think it's the people that are out there doing it for the sake of the knowledge itself are probably the ones that have the answer. But nobody's asking them, and they're not really concerned with coming into the limelight and telling anybody. But yeah, I agree. I think that if you want to spend money on, or like your biggest pet peeve, do this scientifically, make a ghost phone. Figure out what vibrational energy, when they do create EVPs, focus on making the EVP or making the evidence more reproducible or more predictable. It seems like so much of the stuff that is caught in the paranormal it's actually documented in spite of the researchers instead of because of. Got a bunch of bozos running around the dark, banging into walls, and
well, yeah, and
they catch something. But why not focus on it more?
Here's the thing about TV paranormal shows. It's real easy for them to have the ghost turn the light on, but you go to a real investigation, yeah, show me a ghost that'll turn the light on for you, or make the EMF meter move. It's very rare that they'll actually do it. But you look at paranormal, you look at Ghost Hunters or any of these paranormal shows, it seems to happen all the time, huh?
Well, I'm not trying to get into the whole paranormal television show because I think that's just, we beat that topic ad nauseum because we know they're BS.
Yeah.
We know they're BS. We know they're about ratings. It has nothing to do with ghost hunting. It's kind of like, if you want to go down that road, at the end of the show, they meet with the person, say, you know what, this haunted house that you thought was haunted, guess what, it's haunted. And then at the end, they give each other knuckles. And, hey, we got another one. We proved another one that was haunted is haunted. Like, big deal.
Yeah.
Big deal. Okay?
There's no betterment. There's no adding to the knowledge. It's just, hey, it's an ego trip.
Yeah,
no, I understand that. But what I'm trying to get out of this conversation, gentlemen, is should there be, for the mainstream to take this seriously, because everybody for some reason wants the mainstream to take this seriously, okay? The only way we can take this seriously is if the paranormal groups start gathering their evidence. Oh, man, I'm so into this, I banged my microphone. Almost knocked it over. Damn it, this one's got me heated. Okay, but what they need to do is they need to take all of that evidence. They need to corroborate. Would that be the right word? Collaborate, pardon me. Collaborate all their evidence, okay, and say, okay, when this happens, this happens. And they need to diagnose it. And if they're not doing that, all they're doing is playing Pokemon Go with ghosts.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think that's what has me fired up as I specifically booking in October. I've done a lot of ghost hunting stuff, man. A lot of ghost hunting stuff. Because I'm trying to get this riddle out. And I'm going to be hammering these groups coming up here in regards to that. What is your purpose? I need to know your purpose. My audience needs to know your purpose as a ghost hunter. Mm-hmm. Because are you playing Pokemon Go, or are you actually trying to solve the $1 million question that there is life after death?
And if you solve that question, what happens?
Purpose, real quick, then.
Okay, go ahead.
Since you asked, Forest Moon. Since you have a lot of listeners that haven't heard about us, we are a crisis group. We are here for the spirit, and we are here for the client. We are here to, I'm looking for the word now, to be mediators between spirit and client. Now, we've had cases where the spirit didn't want to leave because it's their house. You got to understand, spirits were alive at one point in time, unless you're talking about negative entities, and that's a whole other category. But we're talking about ghosts. Ghosts were alive at one point in time, and many times they're stuck in their own home by choice because that's their home. You are the intruder, not them. And so you have some clients that they're agreeable. They just wanted to know what it was and who it was. Once they find out who it was and that it's only a ghost, many of them are okay with having the ghost there. But once you explain to the ghost that, you're scaring the kids, and you're scaring the dog. If you can please, calm down and stop scaring the kids and the dog, they have no problem with you staying here. Once that's understood and explained, a lot of spirits are, okay, sorry. Gee, we didn't know we were scaring the kids and the dog in that case. Otherwise, you have dark entities that we remove. So, yeah, we're here. We're not the kind of group that walks in and goes, well, look, we got pictures, because half the time we don't get pictures. We have psychics that go in and handle the spirit side of it or the dark entity side of it. But we will not leave and we will not close a case until our client is happy, feels safe, and everything's cool. Then we do a 2 week to a month follow-up. And we're always available if they need support, or something else goes on. That's where Forest Moon stands, and that's where our purpose is.
And I can appreciate that because you're one of the few groups out there that actually goes and cleans up the mess. Much like we had Andrea Message on the other night last week, where she pretty much has to do the exact same thing in a different part of the country.
Right.
But I'm still stuck on this. I don't know why. Maybe I'm beating a dead horse here in the fact that, we should be looking at this with a little bit better and bigger eyes rather than, well, we're here to debunk. Well, then why are you ghost hunting? If you're that skeptical, why are you doing it? What you're doing is you're just being a jerk in the field. That's exactly what you're doing. You're being a jerk in the field. Right? Then you have, the people who, well, we're going scientific with this. And you've all heard my rant on that. I don't need to get into that because you're not a bloody scientist. Okay? But in my opinion, there needs to be goals. You have to set the goal. Because if your dream is the television show, the chances are you're a worthless investigator.
Right.
Right? If your dream is to try and help mankind, which is what this is supposed to be about, you have the opportunity to answer the ultimate question. You have the opportunity to cure a lot of anxiety and depression. You have a lot of opportunity to maybe save a few lives with suicide. If people know. And they skip right over it. It's like jumping over $100 bill to pick up a quarter on the sidewalk.
And here's the thing too, because they're discussing it in the chat room. But so, if there is no afterlife, then what's the purpose of life? That'd be the next question you've got to ask.
If there is no afterlife and there's no fear of punishment, that would pretty much be open season on everything. Can you imagine the people out there that just because they think maybe maybe I won't act on my darker nature because there is a punishment. If there is no punishment, there's no
then
reason.
why not do it?
Yeah, why not just go ape crap and do anything you want? Yeah.
Other than the fact they don't want to spend the rest of their life in prison. That's a good enough, But if there was no prison, there's no hell, then, hey, why not do it?
Yeah.
So it's man's law that keeps most of them in check.
Do as
it's
thou
spiritual
wilt.
law. It's spiritual law that keeps the rest of them in check.
I very much understand that. I very much understand with what you guys are doing. E squared, we only got about 2 minutes left here. That was a quick hour.
Wow.
It was.
Yeah. I hear you, man.
But don't miss S4 on Sunday night.
I hear you. Yeah, don't miss that. Don't miss that. But I don't know. I think what we have to do collectively, and that goes for any other radio show host that is out here, figure out what you want out of ghost hunting. Can we agree on that? If you're not going to figure out what these groups are about, because, having these conversations, and what kind of gear do you use? Tell me about the scariest haunting you've ever had. And yeah, we ask those questions on here too. But you know what I'm saying?
Right.
To base the entire conversation on that, I think what we need to start doing, and I think we're going to start that on this show, is we're going to start holding some of these paranormal groups accountable. I think we need to do that.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And if somebody comes on and says, well, we investigate, we collect evidence, well, what do you do with that evidence? I'm going to start hammering them.
We put it on our hard drive.
in a polite way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it has to be done politely. But I think we have an opportunity to start cleaning up some of this BS. And if we don't start cleaning up some of this BS, we are going to, still be in the realm that we are, which is solving nothing.
Well, it becomes an infomercial.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I use, ABC brand K2 meters. Or the latest, greatest $10,000 camera gimmick that's out there. And it all becomes...
Don't get me wrong. I'd love to have a night vision thermal high-tech camera. But do we have the budget for it? Not really.
I want one just to have one, not so much to even play.
Exactly. But I don't have to have one.
Gentlemen,
I think a FLIR camera would be a blast.
Gentlemen, I got to wrap things up here. I got 2 minutes until I got to wander off into the wilderness. You know how it goes. E-Squared, Aaron Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal, Eric Markham from the SOR Space Wire. Your show S4 with E-Squared happening on Sunday night. What time?
7 p.m. Pacific Standard.
And that can be found at
Eastern.
And that can be found at spacedoutradio.com if you want more information on S4 with E-Squared. They are a Spaced Out Radio sponsored show, so we hope you check them out right before Spaced Out Weekend with James Tyson and Elizabeth Anglin on Sunday. They'll be in the cabin tomorrow night as well to get things fired up here. Hey, thank you so much for being with us. We also want to thank Sheila Renee Parker for being our first guest of the night. She was on for the first 2 hours. It's good to get an empath's point of view on the paranormal. Her book, The Spirit Within, can be found on Amazon as well. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Follow us on iTunes. We're there now. If you're an iPhone holder or you got an iTunes account, pick up Spaced Out Radio there. Any of our archives are there. We're on TuneIn, Revolution Radio, and so much more. Have a good weekend, everyone. I'm out of here. Good night. Mr. Bumblefoot's going to take you home for the night.